Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Sign in for 30 days, SS level ghosts will suppress the world. Chapter 81. Thousands. You were really exaggerating. Song Lao heard this without the slightest change in his face. No one can manipulate thousands of spectre at one time. To achieve a mutual balance between thousands of spectre, it is even more difficult than reaching the sky. Even if someone could do it, it would be like walking on thin ice, because once there is a small problem, it will lead to huge changes. If a ghost goes wrong, it will trigger a chain reaction. And in the reflection, the first to bear the brunt is the exorcist himself. Clap, clap, clap. These figures who fell to the ground stood up staggeringly one by one, the body exuding a rancid aura. Their eyes had long been dull, and their bodies had become dull. But the strange thing is that they seem to be contaminated with layers of gray graves, giving them a strange power. You can quickly travel through the ghost realm. Ha, is this a ghost slave? Song Lao raised his brows and couldn't help but be puzzled. Subconsciously, the black shadow wrapped around him stood up from the ground like a living creature. The next moment, it turned into a machete, a sharp blade, or even an axe, and slashed down towards the hundreds of figures in the front. Click. A shadow sharper than the real sword light instantly cut off one of the heads. However, before everyone could return to their senses, the head that fell to the ground turned into a pile of gray graves. On the body that had lost its head, an identical head grew again. Resurrection. How is this possible? Shui Qian and others in the distance couldn't help showing surprise when they saw this scene. It's not the resurrection, it's the ghost slave who has the characteristics similar to the ghost grave. Han Guang said solemnly, their bodies should have all turned into graves. As long as the ghost graves and ghost trees are not destroyed, they cannot be killed. What? Isn't this too shameless? Then if it goes on like this, aren't we cool? Uncertain. Han Guang shook his head. Since there are people talking, it means that this is not the resurgence of ghosts, but the control of ghosts. Since they are ghosts, there will be no limit to excessive use of this ghost's ability. If it doesn't work well, the ghost will revive, and at that time, the real tree of the dead and the ghost grave will revive. Quote. After a pause, he couldn't help frowning, but what makes me a little puzzled is that the ability to use this scale, and it has lasted for so long, has not recovered. If there is really no limit, then the trouble is big. Shui Qian couldn't help worrying. Don't worry, Song Lao is here and will definitely solve it. Fix yourself. At the same time, Song Lao's old words sounded. He stood on the spot, the crutches lightly on the ground again. Boom. Suddenly, countless shadows rose again, harvesting all the rows of ghost slaves. Since you recover, then I will kill you until you can't recover. Hee, ever-changing, is this the ability of ghosts? The gloomy woman laughed. But I'm more curious now, did you persist longer or did I persist longer? HMPH, who said that the old man will stick with you all the time? Song Lao snorted softly, but the words he said made the dead tree tremble slightly. The next moment, it suddenly felt that something was wrong. A dark shadow, unexpectedly, did not know when, and counter-invaded along its ghost realm. It has even come to the tree of the dead. Swish. The black shadow lifted up and stood up in front of the tree trunk like a giant. The giant held a 40-meter-long knife in his hand, and chopped down heavily towards the tree trunk in front of him. Puff. Silently chopped down, but the entire trunk was torn apart uncontrollably. The huge shadow knife was even sharper than the ghost scissors, and it extended downward without any hindrance. Great. Everyone was pleasantly surprised, but they did not expect to succeed so quickly. As expected of an S-rank ghost master, while dealing with thousands of ghost slaves, he was able to separate out the ability to invade the opponent's ghost realm. Han Guang's pupils flickered, and in front of Old Song, he felt ashamed. Is this the gap between S-level and S-level? A terrifying crack appeared on the trunk, but just when everyone thought that the tree of the dead was going to be completely finished. Suddenly, in the tree of dead people, strange ghost abilities emerged. The next moment, they were like glue, sticking together all the cracks that the shadow knife had passed. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The gray grave soil was continuously spit out from it, and in less than a moment, all the cracks were completely repaired. How can that be? Everyone watched this scene in astonishment. They never imagined that the situation that had just been won by a certain player could be reversed so easily. Ha ha ha. It looks weak. The insolent female laughter emerged from it, as if mocking Song Lao. Are you borrowing the abilities of other specter? Song Lao stood on the spot, stared at the ghost tree for a moment, and suddenly said. Yes, I said that I can manipulate countless ghosts, including all the ghosts who died under this tree, of course. No, to be precise, they are dead ghost riders, and the ghosts that they resurrect themselves will become the objects of my control. Quote. Hiss. Everyone felt their scalps go numb when they heard this, and took a deep breath. No wonder none of the dead teammates have recovered from the ghosts. At first, everyone thought that they were dead, so the ghost also left here, wandering in the northeast area of the entire summer capital. After all, no matter how strong or weak, Li Gui is an existence that cannot be killed. Well now, all the dead ghosts have completely become part of the Tree of the Dead, and can be dominated by the opponent. And at the same time that the ghost tree appeared, there might be many ghosts accumulated before. Isn't it true, what this guy said before? To control 1,000 ghosts. Someone's heart was beating wildly, panic began to appear in their hearts, and they felt that their cognition had been subverted. Impossible, 1,000 ghosts is too exaggerated. Han Guang shook his head, dozens at most. Tens of. Everyone suddenly laughed bitterly. Is there a difference between dozens and hundreds? It's all dead anyway. Dozens of ghosts and countless ghost slaves that can be repaired. For a time, a feeling of despair rose in everyone's hearts. Cool, completely cool now. At this moment, the voice of the woman continued to come from the Tree of the Dead. Haha, you have a saying, calling and not being indecent, now that your tactics are over. Next, it's my turn. Boom, there was a loud bang, the ground shook, and strangely, countless gray haze suddenly rose up, forming a huge wave that swept towards Elder Song. It wants Song Lao to directly become a part of the East Tomb. Hoo-hoo, countless graves turned into a storm and swept towards Old Song. It looks like a tsunami, condensed into reality. Seeing this, Song Lao frowned, the black shadow under his feet continued to spread like ink, and began to rise, trying to forcibly resist the rolling graves. He knew that if he was completely buried by these graves, he would never be able to break free. Caw caw caw. It was clearly just the collision between the shadow and the grave soil, but it made a real clicking sound. Now, Song Lao's ghost image is like a wall blocking the burial soil. With the continuous accumulation of the burial soil, it begins to become taller and thicker, like a dam blocking the flood. Graves are floods, ghosts are dams. Now, it depends on who has the stronger ability and who can last longer. The gray graves are getting thicker and heavier. And the ghost image also began to grow taller and stronger. The 2-6-8-3 seemed to come from the gods in the sky, and under the watchful eyes of Han Guang and others, they began to confront each other. Who can hold on to this? I don't know. I feel that Song Lao's state is not very good, I'm afraid it will be Zan. Don't talk nonsense, if Song Lao can't stand it, we will all die. It's not a question of nonsense, it's really unbearable. Crack. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the dam built by the Black Shadow. The embankment of 1,000 miles collapses in the ant's nest. As soon as the crack appeared, it began to spread rapidly. Soon, countless cracks appeared, and finally, a loud noise came, and the torrent of grave soil engulfed Song Lao completely and completely. It's over. Everyone's heart was cold, and they never imagined that someone as strong as Song Lao couldn't resist. Haha. It seems that your ability is not very good. In the Tree of Dead People, some cold female voices emerged. But in the next instant, Song Lao's voice suddenly sounded. Who said you have to fight hard with you? The moment the old voice sounded, everyone suddenly discovered that, right in front of the tree trunk, Song Lao, who was wearing a blue shroud, actually appeared there. What if I invade your dead tree? At the same time as Song Lao's words sounded, the shadow under his feet suddenly rushed towards the tree trunk like ink. This time, the ink did not split, but began to seep towards the trunk. Everyone was completely stunned by Song Lao's astonishing thought. Invading the dead tree, yes, as long as you invade the other party, you can control the ghost grave in turn, even if it is only for a short time, you can also remove the ghost realm, and even give them the opportunity to imprison them. Faced with such a desperate situation, Song Lao can still come up with such a method, it's amazing. Serve it, this is the strength of an S-rank ghost rider. The specter of anti-invasion of the other side, this is nothing, and I don't even dare to try. In fact, even if someone dares to try, they may not be able to do it. Because, Ghost Shadow Song Lao's own ability to control Ligwei is anti-invasion of the other party. As long as he can use this ability to the extreme, I am afraid that there are not many specters under his control. It is also enough to become a terrifying S-class ghost hunter. The ghosts began to invade down the tree trunks, and the game between the ghost riders was often only between the lines. Even with such a huge confrontation just now, Song Lao was actually looking for opportunities. When he confirmed that the tree trunk of the other party is really the core of the entire ghost tree, it was only at this time that he displayed his precious ability. Because of this, after many calculations, he did successfully invade the other side. In an instant, the main body was just a shadow of a human figure that penetrated directly into his head. Then the shoulders, the arms. As long as he can penetrate his entire body, no matter how huge the opponent's body is, it is of no use at all. But at this moment, a light laughter suddenly sounded from the trunk. Hee, it looks like I'm still better than me. This is the voice of the woman just now, but this time, the tone is very gentle, and there is no sense of madness. It was as if everything was in the calculations of the other party. Song Lao's complexion suddenly changed at this moment, and he felt that he had been fooled. Instinctively, he wanted his own ghost. But at this moment, an abrupt, scissors-like sound sounded. Click. As soon as the scissors went down, Song Lao's complexion changed greatly and he found that his ghost upper body was cut off by a strange force. Yes, it was cut. The ghost's upper body was directly separated from the lower body. The separated ghost will not die because of this, but the upper body is completely out of Song Lao's control. In other words, Song Lao's strength plummeted in an instant. Boom. The haze that has been prepared for a long time rolls back like a wave. Under the astonished gazes of everyone, Song Lao's body was completely submerged. It's over. Everyone was completely in despair. The S-rank Ghost Master, Song Lao, codenamed Ghost Shadow, was completely buried by the other party. Of course, it wasn't just this that was desperate, but it was because everyone found out that even the S-rank Ghost Rider couldn't stop the opponent. Who else can stop it? If this continues, the entire summer will be completely turned into ruins. Become a ghost town. The dignified capital of the Sha Kingdom turned into a ghost town. When it got out, it made people laugh out loud. Boom. A brand new tomb began to take shape in front of the Tree of the Dead. This tomb was simply larger than any tomb that had been formed before. There are more than 10 meters high, and the densely packed graves are piled up. Seeing, the final tip of the tomb is about to be formed. Suddenly a head drilled out from the top of the grave, and it was Song Lao. Wait, that's Song Lao! Everyone exclaimed, not expecting that Song Lao would be able to resist under such circumstances. Come on! Song Lao's hoarse voice came out of his mouth. I can only use the ghost shroud and the power of half a ghost to resist its burial. You quickly contact the headquarters. At least 2S level, not 3S level ghost riders will come together to have a chance to resist. Come on! Han Guang reacted immediately, and immediately fled out without hesitation, because he could feel that the entire ghost realm was much weaker than the previous because of the confrontation with Song Lao. They have fled now, and they may still escape. The signal has been restored, and the headquarters can be contacted. Pang Ling exclaimed and hurriedly called the headquarters of Ghost Riders. After a while, the headquarters of Ghost Rider turned on the satellite positioning directly, connected the monitoring in all areas, and finally saw the situation in the entire ghost domain. What? 3S rank Ghost Riders? Lu Pingchuan slammed down and sat down on the chair. What a joke! In the entire Sha Kingdom, there are 3 hidden S-rank Ghost Riders, including Song Laosai. Isn't this going to be cool? At this moment, just a few kilometers away from the Xiadu ghost territory, a figure wearing a windbreaker, a bowler hat, and a pure white blood-stained mask appeared out of thin air not far away. Girl, Big Brother is here. Minister Lu, can we contact those 2 in time now? At the Ghost Rider headquarters, an assistant couldn't help but said anxiously. Elder Song is the foundation of our Ghost Riders headquarters, and there must be no accident here. Once an accident occurs, it will have a huge impact on the entire international situation. Quote. It's too late. Minister Lu sighed. his face extremely ugly. Do you think I don't know the consequences of this? But neither Zhang Lao nor Lu Lao could leave. The importance of the places they guard is not far from my summer capital. Besides, once we leave, if those places are taken advantage of, our Sha kingdom will suffer even greater losses. Quote. Besides, Song Lao has already reminded that at least 3 S-rank Ghost Riders must join forces to have a chance to resist this S-rank supernatural event. Even if we call them back, we are not sure. Quote. Well, what about this? Do you want to watch Sha Du be destroyed? Many people couldn't help but feel unwilling. This is Xiadu, the capital of the entire Sha kingdom. If you just give up like this, it's simply unacceptable. Just as everyone was at a loss, someone suddenly rushed into office and shouted in surprise. Report that mysterious gentleman appeared on the edge of the ghost realm. What, Mr. Gentleman, S-class Ghost Rider? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. But then it dimmed. No way. Even Old Song is not the opponent of those two ghosts, even a gentleman can't do it. Yes, Song Lao has emphasized that there are at least 3 S-rank Ghost Riders. Even if this gentleman enters, he will die. No, it's better to inform him quickly and get out of there. Entering it hastily, in case of being entangled by the specter, it may cause a larger scale recovery at that time. Lu Pingchuan frowned and suddenly shouted. Quick, dial the gentleman's satellite phone, and don't let him step into thinking or serving as a minister. Yes, on the other side, Chen Zan was just standing on the edge. One foot was about to step into the ghost realm, when suddenly the phone in his pocket rang. With a move in his heart, he picked up the phone subconsciously. He thought it was Chen Ruaoking's contact, but he didn't expect to see a string of numbers marked with the headquarters. After thinking about it, Chen Zan directly connected to the channel. Hello, is there something wrong with Minister Lu? Mr. Gentleman, we saw from the satellite positioning that you are near the ghost domain. Lu Pingchuan said in a hurried tone on the other side, we made a special call to remind you not to enter it. There are double S-level supernatural events composed of 2 specter ghosts. Once you enter it, it is difficult to escape. Song Lao, our S-level Ghost Rider codenamed Ghost Shadow, has already entered it to deal with supernatural events. But the effect is very unsatisfactory. Not only is he trapped in it, but also reminds us to gather 3 S-class thinkers. This series of information revealed Lu Pingchuan's anxiety. But on the other side, Chen Zan was silent for a while after hearing this, and suddenly said. Where's Chen Ruaoking? He just sensed his ghost head rope, and found that it seemed to be blocked by some force, which actually made this sense very weak. In this way, he couldn't be sure whether the ghost head rope was still on Chen Ruaoking's body. Lu Pingchuan was silent for a moment on the phone, but he still said straight, Chen Ruaoking participated in this mission before, and her whereabouts are unknown now. Whereabouts unknown? Chen Zan's voice suddenly became cold. Is it already dead? No, we can't judge this. Lu Pingchuan said, all the team members who participated in the mission totaled 20 people, and only a few captains survived. Everyone else was turned into a ghost cocoon by the Tree of the Dead. Among the ghost cocoons known to have fallen, Chen Ruaoking was not found. Quote. So, do you want me to wait here? Although Chen Zan could not fully sense the breadth of the ghost head rope, he could sense through the ghost head rope that the ghost hair it suppressed was still there, and there was no recovery of the ghost. And the ghost hair is on Chen Ruaoking's body, so it can be inferred that Chen Ruaoking's life is not in danger for the time being. No, we still have 2 S-rank Ghost Riders. If the gentleman is willing, I can contact them now. There are exactly 3 in total. If we join forces, we can definitely solve this supernatural incident. Lu Pingchuan explained quickly. When he saw Chen Zan before, he had an idea in his heart. If the 2 were not guaranteed to be able to solve it, if a gentleman was added, there would be 3. Big 2. At the same time, Mr. Gentleman's situation will be known to other forces in the world. At that time, many countries will think that the Sha Kingdom has added a 4th S-rank Ghost Rider, and it is still in official existence. In this way, not only will there be no problems, but it may even deter other forces even more. It's just a lot of work. However, as soon as his words fell, Chen Zan on the other side moved his footsteps and stepped into the ghost realm so casually. No need, if Minister Lu has time, send someone to prepare the container for detaining the ghost. Also, I remember you said once that I was paid to get my hands on it. Quote. The voice fell, and without waiting for Lu Pingchuan to respond, he hung up the phone directly. What should I do, Minister Lu? Everyone on the side naturally heard the words coming from the phone. Hey, this gentleman is too much. How could he handle it? Yeah, Song Lao, who is also an S-rank ghost rider, is trapped inside, let alone him. If this damages the second place here, then the ghost will recover, and the disaster will be even more terrifying. What to do? Is it the end? Snapped. Lu Pingchuan slapped the table. Quickly contact Zhang Lao and Lu Lao, let them get ready as soon as possible, and immediately come here to support. He looked at Luo Zidao. Dr. Luo, how soon can they reach Xiadu? Luo Ji pushed his glasses and said expressionlessly. 10 minutes if you use that thing. These two are separated by different places, and the distance from Xiadu is more than 1,000 miles, but with the help of ghosts, everything seems to be no problem. Prepare immediately. If the time is fast enough, you may be able to ask the two of you to help when the gentleman is in danger. In fact, Lu Pingchuan himself is not optimistic about the gentleman entering it alone, otherwise he would not immediately mobilize the two whole cards. He only hoped that the gentleman could stay in it for a longer time, even if it was only 10 minutes, until the support arrived. At the same time, on the dim, pitch-black street surrounded by graves, the figure of Chen Zan strolling slowly emerged. Under the pure white blood-stained mask, a pair of golden pupils looked into the distance. It seemed that with just one glance, he saw the dead tree at the end. The next moment, he moved. Da-da, the crisp sound of strolling sounded, and his figure disappeared out of thin air. In front of the tree of the dead, countless ghost cocoons began to shatter, and figures of ghost slaves began to appear from under the tree of the dead. The entire northeastern region, even if it only occupies a quarter of the entire Xiadu area, has a population of more than 3 million. Certainly, in addition to the majority of the people who were evacuated immediately after knowing that the ghost realm was spreading, there were more than 500,000 people left. 500,000 people, under the shroud of the ghost realm that lasted for nearly a few hours, there are not 1 in 10 who can survive. Under the transformation of many ghost slaves, the power of the dead tree has reached an unprecedented high. On the other side, a large number of ghost slaves are surging towards a gray solitary tomb. This solitary tomb is several meters high and incomparably huge. The head of an old man can be seen in the music above. However, the old man's disclosure was only half left at the moment. Only above the nostrils can barely struggle. Hee, Song Lao, why do you continue to struggle? A female voice sounded around with a persuasive tone. Give it up. Only by giving up can you be one with me. Don't worry, I will let the tree of the dead inherit the power of ghosts, so that I can have more powerful abilities. Song Lao couldn't speak, his eyes were calm. He has lived for a long time, and he knew that he was not finished until he was about to die. Originally, he thought that even if he died, he would still be able to leave here with this specter who controlled technology. But I never imagined that the other party's means would emerge in an endless stream. Not only the dead tree, the ghost grave, but even the weird ghost scissors. If it weren't for the ghost scissors, maybe I could have succeeded just now. Song Lao sighed in his heart, he was a little regretful, but now there is no way to solve it. Even he can't solve the immediate crisis himself. At this time, clatter, clatter, the sound of footsteps resounded in the dark street. Afterwards, a black trench coat, a bowler hat, and a blood-stained pure white mask on their face. In his eyes, there was a faint golden light flashing away. He was leaning on a cane in his hand, and his pace was slow, like a gentleman. At the same time, on his left, there was a tall and beautiful woman wearing a long black tulle skirt. It looks like a maid, but strangely, her face is actually a doll's face. On the right, a huge scarecrow taller than 2.5 meters followed behind, holding a long-handled sickle in his hand. It looks like a reaper who reaped life. Such a combination appeared directly in his field of vision. This is... Song Lao was puzzled, but he didn't know the identity of the other party. After all, the gentleman's file, he had never read. In the same way, Lu Pingchuan and others who called for surveillance in the entire Ghost Rider headquarters also watched this scene. For a time, I couldn't help but mention it in my heart. Gentlemen, can you resist the attack of the dead tree? However, to everyone's surprise, when they saw the gentleman appear, laughter came from the tree of dead people. Ha ha ha, after waiting for so long, the person I was looking for finally appeared. A sharp female voice came out from the tree of dead people, making all the figures who saw this scene couldn't help exclaiming. What? It turns out that all the incidents are to find a gentleman. My God, isn't this too cruel? In order to wait for one person, how many people have to be slaughtered? Damn, those who control technology are lunatics. Could this be his trick? While everyone was talking, Chen Zan stopped and looked at the dead tree. Hand over Chen Ruoking, I'll let you go. There was no emotion in his voice, and it seemed to be telling an ordinary little thing. Hee, what's the hurry? The woman's voice didn't seem to care. Before that, we can talk for a while. Gentlemen, I, Shenyu Technology, head of R&D department, sincerely invite you to join Shenyu Technology. In this regard, we are willing to fully support Mr. Gentleman's various resources, including your satisfaction. Quote. The sharp words made everyone who saw this scene change their faces. What? After a long time, it turned out to be to attract gentlemen. What should I do? If Mr. Gentleman joins Shenyu Technology, even if the elders and Lu Lao come, it will be difficult to deal with. Lu Pingchuan frowned, and suddenly glanced at the assistant beside him. How about Dr. Luo? How long will it take? 5 minutes left. The assistant keeps an eye on the progress and reports on the news. 5 minutes. Lu Pingchuan took a deep breath, never feeling that 5 minutes was so long. If the gentleman really joins Shenyu Technology, then Sha Guo will face the most serious crisis since Li Gui's recovery. Only Mr. Zhang and Mr. Lu together might be able to influence the gentleman's thoughts. However, after Chen Zan heard those words, his face did not fluctuate at all. Backquote, hand over Chen Ruoking. After a pause, he said again, I only give you 5 seconds to think about it. 5. Hee, it seems that the gentleman is very dissatisfied with my actions. This is the sincerity of our Shenyu Technology. You must know that you were not included in the invitation. 3. If you really want to do it, you are not your opponent. Equals. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. No one expected that the last countdown was actually sent from the tree of the dead. At the moment when the last countdown fell, countless tree roots were ejected from the ground, and they shrouded Chen Zan with their claws and claws. Useless work. Chen Zan just said something lightly, and in an instant, the straw Wang Qian's ghost behind him stepped out one step, and the death scythe in his hand drew an arc in midair, and then slashed down with a knife. Swish! All the illusions were cut off by the straw ghost man's knife, and the roots were broken, which did not cause even the slightest damage to Chen Zan. Before everyone could express their shock at this scene, a joking voice suddenly came from the tree of dead people. Hee, do you think I rely on them? Chen Zan raised his brows, feeling the coldness coming from behind him. He turned back subconsciously, and saw a shadow with only his upper body approaching him. As if to merge into his shadow. But at this moment, the ghost puppet suddenly turned its head, showing a 180-degree rotation and falling on the half of the shadow. In an instant, the ghost figure was abruptly fixed in place and completely suppressed. Successfully suppressed the ghost tree. Under the surveillance, everyone could not help exclaiming when they saw this scene. Unexpectedly, the gentleman was still so powerful, and he actually suppressed the other 2 ghosts in an instant. The ghost tree's illusion failed, and even the half-ghost that was taken away was directly suppressed. Such abilities are not weak. It's too early to be happy. The most terrible thing about the dead tree is not just these. A ghost rider frowned, not optimistic. Yeah, the root of the ghost tree is just an illusion, and the ghost image is also a ghost of Song Lao. Wait, what about Song Lao? Suddenly someone exclaimed, and everyone suddenly discovered that half of Song Lao's head completely disappeared on the huge lonely tomb. Only a pointed grave remains. Damn it, if Song Lao is dead, that shadow's ability will definitely decline. Everyone exclaimed, and sure enough, in the ghost realm, half of the ghosts that had been suppressed actually started to grow. Chen Zan raised his brows when he saw this scene. Did you completely deprive that person of the ghost? Hee, you guessed it. The female voice in the trunk laughed lightly, That's right, the greatest ability of the dead tree is to take away the specter of others. Even the S-rank Ghost Rider is no exception. Gentlemen, the reason why I haven't buried you now is not because you can't do it, but because you are worthy of being recruited by God-controlled technology, and you are qualified to be God's candidate. God's alternative. Chen Zan looked at the trunk and suddenly burst out laughing. Do you really think of yourself as a god? In my opinion, it's just a bunch of really poor people who don't know the heavens and the earth. If I'm not mistaken, you shouldn't be here, right? Not far away, the female voice in the tree trunk suddenly stopped. Then he laughed again. Hee hee, gentlemen, no objection to the temptation will not have any effect. Now, look behind you. Quote, Chen Zan turned his head subconsciously, and saw that a shadow seemed to be extending towards him. As long as he touched his shadow, he could completely control himself. However, seeing this scene, Chen Zan's face did not fluctuate at all, but said casually, do you really think that my suppression only has this ability? As soon as his voice fell, he saw AIFC that the originally extended ghost figure had actually solidified in place, as if an invisible force had forced it there. Suddenly, everyone was shocked. Here, he can even fix old Song's complete ghost image. Peng Ling, Han Guang and the others were hiding in the distance, and they were extremely surprised to see this scene. Have you found any problems with the doll? It seems to be taller than before. Shui Qian keenly saw this scene. I remember it wasn't like this last time. When I was in the laboratory before, everyone had seen Chen Zan's ghost dolls. Although the ghost dolls at that time had grown a lot, they had not yet reached this level. Obviously, the ability shown now is stronger than before. Indeed, if Chen Zan had just obtained the ghost doll before, he could not have done this step. Even he felt that it would be good to suppress at most half of the ghosts. But now, after many times of growth, after swallowing the specter, the ghost doll not only changed its appearance, but also increased its abilities. What's even more terrifying is that the other party also has an extremely terrifying growth potential. Just like the tree of the dead, it can devour the ghosts, thereby gaining the ability of the other party. Even scarier than the tree of the dead. Because of the ghost doll's ability to devour, there is absolutely no need to worry about the ghost's recovery, and even Dongxuan can borrow it. The full ghost is suppressed, and the root of the phantom condensed does not work. It seems that all the means of the dead tree have been ineffective. However, the female voice in the tree trunk was stunned for a moment, and then she sneered. Since the gentleman does not agree, then I have to swallow you together. Boom! The earth shook, and countless graves soared into the sky, forming a wave of terrifying smog in the sky, sweeping directly towards Chen Zan. Let you taste the power of my grave, and finally build a solitary grave for yourself. The reason why Dead Tree and Chen Zan have been able to talk here for so long is not just to test each other. It's more for procrastination. Now, Song Lao has been completely submerged in the ghost grave, and has died without a place to be buried. The ghost grave that is free can use all the graves to sweep towards Chen Zan. Huge earth waves rolled like a tidal wave and surrounded Chen Zan from all directions. These graves seem to be real, but they seem to appear out of thin air. There is no point in running away, only positive resistance. If you can stop it, you will be able to live, but if you can't stop it, you will be submerged in the ghost grave. As a result, he was absorbed by the dead tree and became a ghost slave. From the beginning to the end, Chen Zan just stood there quietly, watching the graves fall from the sky, completely burying his body. In less than a moment, a brand new, huge solitary tomb was formed again. Not even Chen Zan's head was seen. This is the end. Everyone felt inconceivable. How could it collapse completely in the blink of an eye? Well, although I don't want to admit it, this time, Mr. Gentleman, I really don't have a chance. The ghost tomb is too weird, and the coverage area is too large, there is no way to dodge. Oh, my God. In order to get Mr. Gentleman, he did not hesitate to arrange such a large ghost field in advance. I am afraid that the ghost rider who manipulated the dead tree has already thought about all this. It's over, now Mr. Gentleman is dying so soon, even if Mr. Zhang and Mr. Lu arrive, it will be too late. Compared to the shock and unwillingness of everyone, the voice in the tree of the dead was a little surprised. Buried so easily. There was doubt in his tone, and there was no excitement in his imagination. Because as expected, this gentleman should not be so easily defeated. Judging from the information he has collected, at least he can withstand it for a while. However, before waiting for his thoughts to fall, a slightly strange sound actually sounded inside the solitary tomb that had just formed. The ability to forcibly piece together is superficial after all. This voice sounded faintly, and even the grave soil could not stop it. In an instant, the people who were originally a little desperate suddenly raised their heads. The next moment, above the gray solitary grave, blood began to seep out. Lonely tomb, flowing away. Above the solitary tomb several meters high, Chenzon could not be seen at all. But at the same time as the voice sounded, suddenly a trace of bright red infiltrated from it. Even if it is only a trace, it is extremely bright on the huge solitary grave, so bright that people cannot forget it. There are doubts in the tree of dead people, and it seems a little strange to this phenomenon. But before he could finish his words, he saw that the trace of blood was getting bigger and bigger. It seemed that bright red blood began to flow from the inside of the solitary tomb, infecting the entire tomb. The initial rate of this infection is very slow, but it can get faster and bigger. Look, what is that? Blood, blood. Could it be that the gentleman scholar has recovered? Impossible. The ghost masters buried in the ghost grave will also be absorbed by the dead tree. Isn't the ghost resuscitation? What is that? It's the gentleman fighting back. Everyone was shocked when they heard it. What? They have been buried in the ghost grave, how can they still have the energy to fight back? This is simply incredible. From start to finish, we never knew all the abilities of a gentleman. At this time, Dr. Luoji pushed his glasses and said calmly through the surveillance. In other words, none of us have ever seen the limit of his own, perhaps, this blood is part of his ability. Really, to be able to break through the shackles of the ghost grave from the inside, is this what a ghost rider can do? Everyone's hearts were shaking. In the Fengmen village incident, Qin Long, who was locked in the ghost grave, could not break free by himself, and he was able to escape only with the help of everyone. And just now, the S-rank ghost master Song Lao was buried in the ghost grave. Even ghosts and ghosts were completely deprived of them. How could a gentleman be able to resist such a terrifying ghost grave? Perhaps, he's not just able to resist. Dr. Luoji said solemnly, Minister Liu, I suggest to suspend the plan initiated by the two S-rank ghost riders. Maybe the gentleman can solve the problem here. What? On him alone? Lu Pingchuan frowned and looked at Dr. Luoji steadily. The person in charge of the laboratory has an extraordinary keen eye and rich experience in supernatural events. Judgments made from his mouth have hardly failed. Dr. Luo, how sure are you? 50%. Dr. Luoji said without thinking, even if the gentleman can be freed from the ghost grave, his certainty will rise to 70%. 70%. Everyone gasped, not expecting that Dr. Luoji had such a high opinion of a gentleman. 70%. That's worth a try. Lu Pingchuan said solemnly, suspend the support plan for the 2S class ghost riders and wait for the follow-up instructions. Yes, this side has just been suspended, and during the monitoring, the huge ghost tomb has almost been infected with blood and turned blood red. Even, this kind of blood color is still continuously rich, as if there is blood that can't bear to seep out of it. The voice in the tree of the dead has begun to prepare to suppress the ghost grave. But he soon discovered that his own suppression seemed to have no effect at all. Finally, the gurgling sound emerged. The originally formed solitary tomb finally couldn't bear it, and began to flow down like mud. Even the shape of his solitary grave could not be maintained. In less than a moment, it disappeared completely. In the solitary grave, Chen Zan was still wearing a trench coat and bowler hat, and his body was not even stained with the grave soil. If this is the limit of your ability, then it will be the other way around. Weird, cold, and even disdainful words resounded. Make everyone's heart mad. Is it really resisted? My God, the gentleman is so scary, even scarier than Song Lao. This wave may really detain each other, the gentleman is too strong. It's not easy to say, the dead tree is too weird, the dense ghost cocoons on the tree have not interfered, and even ghost scissors can be used. At the mention of ghost cocoon, everyone froze in their hearts. Indeed, the ghost cocoons constructed of hundreds of thousands of people only fall down a few thousand even when they are young. If it really falls down, even if it is piled up, it will be able to pile up Chen Zan to death. It seems like a coincidence in the dark, just as everyone's thoughts surfaced, they saw that the crown of the dead tree began to shake violently. In an instant, countless ghost cocoons kept falling from above and fell to the ground. Hee, a gentleman is a gentleman. In addition to ghost dolls and scarecrows, there are actually such means. However, in order to deal with you, the price I paid is not small. Do you know if you can kill these hundreds of thousands of ghost slaves? Ha ha ha. Countless ghost cocoons cracked, and there came out a path of numb ghost slaves covered in this grave soil. Most of them are ordinary people, and there are also ghost riders mixed in. Even, these ghost controllers can maintain their own ghost control ability. Driving Li Gui, he rushed towards Chen Zan. What kind of scene is this? The heads of countless people are like the tide of the dead, surging, and will drown Chen Zan. At this moment, everyone's heart sank, and to be honest, faced with such a terrifying scene like a natural disaster, no one thought Chen Zan could resist. However, Chen Zan still stood there, the ghost doll suppressed the ghost, and the straw ghost man held the death sickle and cut the surrounding tree roots. His two major reliances seem to have been restricted. There is only one person left, how can he resist 500,000 ghost slaves? Ha ha, Chen Zan suddenly chuckled, and there was a hint of coldness in his laughter. You really have many means, although I don't know why you were looking for me, but I think everything should end here. The voice fell, and I saw the whole body tremble, and countless blood appeared out of thin air from the air. Ghost blood, all ghost blood. All the ghost blood condensed in an instant, and with Chen Zan as the center, it continued to surge towards the surroundings like a wave. This is the ghost realm. Doubts came from the trunk. HMPH, it's useless, no matter how big your ghost realm is, can you cover all my ghost slaves? What's more, in my ghost realm, it can definitely suppress you. Really? Then look at it. Chen Zan spoke softly, and the next moment, the blood was surging towards the surroundings like a wave. 0. Wow. Wherever he passed, everything that had vitality began to wither and devour. In a few breaths, the ghost blood formed a pond beside Chen Zan. And this pond is spreading outwards at an extremely terrifying speed. No, this ghost blood is too scary, we can't resist it. Han Guang's complexion changed, and he forcibly used his own ghost fire and ghost domain, wrapping everyone in it. Swish. He left here directly, and fled wildly in the direction that Chen Zan was away from. Terrible. He was only slightly contaminated just now, and he actually felt like he was about to be pulled into it. Han Guang's heart trembled at this moment, and he realized just how terrifying the ghost blood and ghost realm that could annihilate his ghost fire. But no matter how strong the ghost blood is, unless it can drown all the ghost slaves, it cannot reverse the situation. He stopped several kilometers away and looked back subconsciously. FK. The wave formed by the red ghost blood was even more turbulent than before, surging towards them like a flood bursting its banks. Come on, the scope of this ghost realm is beyond imagination, we must escape. Han Guang moved his feet and ran desperately. He now finally understands that the reason why Chen Zan is so calm is because the ghost blood ghost domain can really wipe out all the ghost slaves. Wow. Above the monitoring, a scene like a rushing river continued to emerge on the monitoring. Everyone watched in shock as Chen Zan's ghostly blood grew from tens of meters to thousands of meters, or even tens of kilometers. From the perspective of satellite positioning, it can be seen that a blood-colored river has formed in the northeastern area of Xiadu at this time. In the river, all the ghost slaves were actually submerged. This is terrible. Han Guang looked at the blood-colored river that covered almost the entire scope of the ghost grave and ghost territory and was speechless in shock. Others also have different expressions, with complex expressions on their faces. They did not expect that under the siege of the ghost tree and the ghost grave, they did not let everyone flee desperately. In the end, it was the gentleman's ghost realm that made them flee in embarrassment. If this ghost river continues to expand, will it affect other artisans? Looking at the bloody influence on the satellite image, everyone couldn't help but worry. No, obviously the gentleman has already controlled the scope of the ghost realm. Dr. Luoji calmly said, he obviously knows that all the living people in the ghost realm have been completely killed by the ghost grave. Therefore, he unscrupulously released his own ghost domain. Quote. Gollum, the assistant behind Lu Pingchuan, couldn't help swallowing. If he really released the ghost realm in the laboratory, what about the entire laboratory? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They couldn't imagine it. Dr. Luo, can the gentleman's ghost realm solve the ghost grave and the dead tree? Lu Pingchuan asked suddenly. Maybe so. Dr. Luo looked at the monitor and said, however, I feel that the ghost rider who controls the ghost tree and ghost grave does not seem to appear. The body does not appear. Everyone's face changed. Yes, I just looked through all the existing materials on Shenyu technology, and it seems that only the doctor who is also obsessed with experimental research in Shenyu technology can control this level of specter. And he, coming back, will not put himself in danger. Quote. Luoji said, it is very likely that he is remotely controlling. Remote control. How is it possible? What kind of ghost rider can remotely control 2S class ghosts? It's impossible. That's right, even we haven't researched it. How could he have researched it? Everyone felt incredible when they heard Luoji's guess. Shenyu technology has been secretly researching and developing how to transform ghost riders over the years. Luoji frowned. How far they have progressed, even we may not be able to fully know. Also, didn't you find that the voice in the tree of dead people seemed a little familiar? Familiar. Everyone was stunned when they heard it. When you say that, it seems a bit like that Chen Ruoking. Suddenly a staff member in charge of the laboratory spoke up. Yes, it's really a bit similar. How could it be her? Could it be that she has already taken refuge in Shenyu technology? She can't rely on Shenyu technology. Dr. Luoji directly denied. 18 years ago, Chen Ruoking and his big brother Chen Zan appeared directly at the Ping'an Welfare Institute, and I have read their files before. All previous resumes are fake. In other words, no one knows their true origins. 18 years ago, Minister Lu, did you remember one thing about Shenyu technology? 18 years ago. Lu Pingchuan frowned and thought for a moment, then his eyes suddenly widened. You mean, the rebellion of Shenyu technology? That's right. At that time, there were differences within Shenyu technology. We don't know the specific reasons, but one of the main researchers in charge of the laboratory seemed to have a fierce conflict. In the end, he died under the encirclement and suppression of Shenyu technology. As far as we know, the researcher's surname is Chen. Quote. Without waiting for everyone to ask, Dr. Luoji continued. So I speculate that the researcher surnamed Chen is the biological father of Chen Ruoking and Chen Zan, and he sent the two children to the Ping'an orphanage. And in Chen Ruoking's body, there must have been an unknown change. Therefore, the dead tree's stated purpose of looking for a gentleman may just be a blind eye. And their real purpose is Chen Ruoking. Quote. What? Everyone was shocked when they heard it, and at first they thought they were looking for a gentleman. Unexpectedly, the other party was actually looking for Chen Ruoking. So, the key now is not only to imprison Li Gui, but also to find a way to keep Chen Ruoking so that their plan cannot be successful. While everyone was talking, in the ghost realm on the other side, Chen Zan stepped on the surging blood-colored river calmly. On the other side, above Wen, the dead man Xianglin swayed wildly, as if exuding all his power, excluding the surrounding ghost blood. Some exclamations came from the dead tree. I didn't expect, Mr. Gentleman, your ghost ability is so powerful. Even the ghost grave and the dead tree can't resist. Surprisingly, although the voice in the tree of dead people was surprised, it was not flustered. I didn't expect that your body was not here to be able to control these two substitutes to this point. Chen Zan's calm words sounded, but it made the dead tree tremble, and a voice with a strong shock emerged. What? You know I'm not here. Oh, not only do I know you're not here. Chen Zan took a step and approached the other side step by step. If it wasn't for the sake of not hurting the girl, I would have chopped up your papery thing long ago. What? Paper tied? The voice in the ghost tree became even more surprised. It seemed that Chen Zan could not guess his secret. What? Am I right? Chen Zan said indifferently. The last time you were in Fengmen village, the ghost tree you left was probably just a paper-wrapped tree, right? I don't know the exact details, but I can guess. You use the ability similar to the paper tie ghost to create clones of ghost trees and ghost graves, which caused problems in Fengmen village. Its real purpose should be to attract ghost riders to drive over. Of course, it would be best if the ghost rider could be killed. If it could not be done, the graves left in the air would be stained on the survivors. Thus, was brought back to the capital. In this way, the power of your ghost grave and ghost tree should be able to find the location of Shiado. There may be some restrictions. In short, after preparations, a terrifying S-level supernatural event can be triggered in Shiado. Quote. While Chen Zan was speaking, he was sitting in a spacious office far away in a mysterious place. The gentle-looking doctor with glasses had a confident face, but his indifferent smile was slowly receding. In his incomparably spacious office, various experimental instruments are not piled up, but one by one, all kinds of tools made of paper. There are paper tie people, paper tie coffins, paper tie TVs, even paper tie cars and so on. In an office, all kinds of paper tie items are placed, which seems to be filled with a strange atmosphere. After a moment of silence, the doctor seemed to be able to see the scene outside the dead man's tree through the air. Asked suddenly, then, Mr. Gentleman, do you know what I'm here for? To win me over, this is the first. Standing on the river of blood, Chen Zan calmly said, as for the second 2.8, it is to test your research results. As for the third one, for Chen Ruoking. Quote, haha, you really guessed it right. The doctor chuckled, but couldn't help but continue, so gentlemen, what if you know? Chen Ruoking has been controlled by me, and when I completely integrate her innate ghost body, you will become the next target to be swallowed. Oh, Chen Zan paused for a while, then suddenly said with a blank expression, why do you think I'm talking so much nonsense to you? The doctor's complexion suddenly changed, and he felt that something was not right. What do you mean? Look if Chen Ruoking is still in your trunk. Idiot. Chen Zan smiled coldly. The next moment suddenly the river of blood began to churn under his feet, and the pale palms slowly protruded out, and in their hands, there was actually a sleeping figure. It was Chen Ruoking. What? Seeing Chen Ruoking's figure appearing on the river of blood, the doctor who didn't know where he was hiding suddenly changed his face. Quickly check the trunk of the dead tree. Impossible, Chen Ruoking is still in the trunk, you can't move her away. Haha, do you think what you saw is true? Chen Zan's indifferent laughter sounded, and an astonishing scene happened. The Chen Ruoking, who was originally hidden in the trunk, actually began to fade and disappeared strangely. At the same time, gurgling blood river did not know when it actually infiltrated from below and began to spread towards the tree trunk. And all this, the doctor actually did not know when it happened. How is this possible? The doctor was completely shocked, with an incredible look in his eyes. It's Gaihei. Is your Gaihei's ability weird? Hehe, I just found out now, it's too late. Chen Zan glanced at Chen Ruoking who was not injured, and a big stone fell in his heart for a while. People have been rescued, now it's time to settle your account. Oh wait. Wow, countless ghost blood formed a wave, rushing towards the ghost tree and ghost grave. Even if it is just a ghost that is tied with paper, it has a very powerful ability. If it can be solved, Chen Zan believes that it is impossible to use this ability again in a short period of time. Exactly, taking advantage of this time, and finding his body again, he will be able to kill him in seconds. Chen Zan will not allow someone to plot against himself, or even his own sister, over and over again. Wow, wow, the tide was surging, and at this moment, Chen Zan completely showed the horror of his blood river ghost. Devouring, annihilating, suppressing, and the curse of the ghost hand contained in it, it suppressed the ghost tomb and the tree of the dead. For a long time, the world thought that Chen Zan's biggest reliance was ghost dolls and straw dong people. But now, the real tough one is himself. Kakaka. Under the turbulent blood of countless ghosts, the huge ghost grave could not bear it, and it began to fade gradually. That's right, it is fading, just like the color is washed off after the paper is soaked in water. A huge ghost tomb completely made of paper appeared in the eyes of everyone. Not only that, the dead tree above the face began to wither, and the black branches began to fade, revealing the prototype of the paper. This is actually made of paper. I never imagined that the ability of the paper ghost will be completely exposed. See the huge ghost grave and the tree of the dead submerged by the turbulent river of blood. The shock on everyone's faces couldn't be added. Before, they were almost wiped out, and even an S-rank ghost rider was in it. But now, by the gentleman's means, he completely suppressed the two S-rank ghosts. And it also revealed all of the doctor's plans. This kind of thinking and powerful ability is simply indescribable. Seeing that the tree of the dead was about to become completely paper-wrapped, there seemed to be an extremely angry voice from the doctor. HMPH, do you think you can really save Chen Ruoking? Gentlemen, I admit that you are very strong, stronger than I expected. But, I also know all your secrets, your true identity. In front of me, there is no concealment at all. Quote. Yes, Chen Zan's eyes flashed, but he didn't waver at all. When I find you, let's see how much you know. Hee, find me. The doctor smiled. Then you have to work hard, but before that, make sure you are alive. As soon as the voice fell, Chen Zan suddenly heard a crisp sound of scissors from the trunk of the dead tree. Click. At the same time as the sound of scissors, Chen Zan's expression changed suddenly. Subconsciously looking back at Chen Ruoking beside her, she did not find the scissors on her body. It's ghost scissors. Yup, the doctor said with a smile. I didn't expect you to be so careless. I thought you could notice the missing details of the ghost scissors, but I'm a little disappointed. Caw. Chen Zan stood there, and a thin line emerged from the top of his head, like a scissors cut. Seeing this scene, the smile on the doctor's face grew even stronger. It's a pity that the dead tree tied with this paper is too fragile to take away the ghost scissors. In fact, as early as the beginning of the plan, the doctor planned to turn the living people in the entire area into ghost slaves, and then use ghost slaves to bring back items such as Chen Ruoking and ghost scissors. But now, everything has been destroyed by Chen Zan's Blood River ghost domain. Not only did Chen Ruoking's body not come back, but he also didn't take away the ghost scissors and the ghost that swallowed Song Lao. This has to be said to be a loss. Fortunately, the loss of these has solved the gentleman. That's fair enough for the doctor. No, he even earned it. Because, in his opinion, a gentleman is far more dangerous than the research of Shenyu technology. On the other side, the entire Ghost Rider headquarters has been completely chaotic. The gentleman had just solved the entire S-rank supernatural incident, and even crushed the opponent in a destructive manner. But in the blink of an eye, the opponent's ghost scissors gave him a secret calculation. It was simply unacceptable to them. Lu Pingchuan even has a headache now. Once the gentleman dies, there will be many reasons for the trouble caused by the ghost's recovery. Quick, Dr. Luo, think of a way to save the gentleman. He can only pin his hopes on Luoji now. No, I can't do it. Luoji directly refused. If you have prepared before, you can transfer the target of the ghost scissors, but now, there is already a result. This is a method of killing similar to the rules. Even the S-rank Ghost Rider can't stop it. What about this? Do you watch him die? 820. The crowd couldn't help but feel despair. However, just when the doctor thought he was the biggest winner and the Ghost Rider headquarters felt hopeless, suddenly, the gentleman figure standing on the river of blood was completely shattered by the ghost scissors and disappeared like a bubble. While the power of the dead tree was still there, the doctor suddenly shrank his pupils. In the next instant, an indifferent voice resounded from the river of blood. Do you really think that what you think is true? As soon as the voice fell, I saw a figure emerge from the ghost river again. Impossible. The doctor jumped up from his seat, unable to believe what he saw. Ghost scissors are a rule to kill. It is impossible for you to still be alive. Indeed, standing on the ghost river, Chen Zan nodded. KY scissors must cut that one towards the target. But what if the goal was originally false? As his voice fell, figures exactly like the gentleman appeared one after another over the entire river of blood. Doctor, do you think? Countless echoes reverberated over the entire ghost river, making the scalp tingling. How many times can your ghost scissors cut? How many times can your ghost scissors cut? Above the entire Blood River ghost territory, one after another figure stood there, saying a word in unison. Even a doctor, looking at it, feels indescribably weird. Although ghost scissors are powerful, they actually have very harsh conditions of use. That is, you need to find the target and aim at the target. In fact, as early as the very beginning, the moment Chen Zan confronted the dead tree, under the mask, those golden eyes had quietly unfolded his ghost realm. It was in the ghost realm that was completely compiled by ghost magicians. In the illusion, he can be real or illusory. Everything is just a thought. The tree of the dead previously used an illusion to cover the original body of the paper, which was also directly seen by Chen Zan with his golden ghost eyes. He not only used his ghost eyes to see through Chen Ruoqing's location, but also took advantage of the time when the Blood River ghost territory was flowing, breaking through the dead tree from the ground and taking Chen Ruoqing away directly. And there is also a Chen Ruoqing who is completely condensed from illusions. What is even more shocking is that the illusion left by this was not discovered by the doctor at the first time. Chen Zan named this kind of ghost domain the magic ghost domain. It seems that he only has the Blood River ghost domain, but in fact, it has already been superimposed with the magic ghost domain. Well, it turns out that Mr. Gentleman didn't die. At the Ghost Rider headquarters, the many concerned Ghost Riders almost cheered. Whether or not the gentleman has joined the Ghost Rider headquarters, at least he is now fighting against the doctor. Just now, I thought he had already been capsized by the doctor's ghost scissors sewer. Unexpectedly, the gentleman not only did not die, but also showed such terrible means. Ghost domain, he actually has two kinds of civics. How is it possible? A Ghost Rider's face was full of astonishment. Ordinary Ghost Riders, who can master a kind of ghost domain, can already be among the ranks of A-level Ghost Riders. Like those captain-level powerhouses, they may not be able to own all the ghost realms. And to master two kinds of ghost realms at the same time, this is equivalent to two powerful ghosts, which is simply impossible for Ghost Riders. Could the gentleman have become an outlier? Lu Pingchuan also had a look of surprise on his face. Even though he repeatedly overestimated the strength of a gentleman, he never expected that the other party would be able to surprise him every time. I heard that there are some Ghost Riders who can change their bodies and become ghost-like beings. In this way, we cannot be afraid of the impact of the ghost's recovery. Is it because of this that a gentleman can have the ability of two ghost realms? Theoretically it should be, Dr. Luo Ji said from the side, but the reality is that he is still a living person, and he is still a relatively normal living person. What? How is it possible? This time everyone was even more surprised. Nothing is impossible. Luo Ji seemed to have known it for a long time, and said lightly, when he came to see Chen Ruoqing before, the instruments in the laboratory could detect his physiological data. I have also researched and found that it is a normal living person who can no longer be normal. No, to be precise, he was more normal, healthier and stronger than most living people. Even his individual age is less than 30 years old. Quote. After a pause, Dr. Luo Ji also had doubts on his face, but I don't know why he can control so many ghosts without damage. Maybe, it has something to do with that ghost doll. Ghost doll. When everyone saw the ghost dolls that also appeared above the Blood River ghost territory, they were puzzled. That's right, this ghost doll's ability, in addition to suppressing the ghost, can also imprison the ghost. As long as the ghosts are imprisoned, they can obtain the ability of ghosts. Before the ghost shoe ability, I found it from her. Perhaps Mr. Gentleman avoided being affected by Spectre's recovery by borrowing his abilities. Quote. Borrowing the ghost. After hearing this, everyone understood what Dr. Luo said, but the more they understood, the more incredible they felt. A living person can actually use two ghost domain abilities without fear of the influence of the ghost, which makes the Ghost Rider go crazy with jealousy. Of course, he also has certain side effects. Dr. Luo pointed to the figure in the monitoring. Excessive use of the ghost's ability will not affect the body, but it will affect the gentleman's character. And there is no way to determine whether it will affect his body in the future. Quote. Hearing this, everyone was relieved and slightly balanced. Nima, if a big living person borrows the ability of the Spectre without any side effects, this is simply a walking nuclear bomb, which is enough to make any country have deep fear. Because the biggest problem with Ghost Riders is not that they are too destructive or that their methods are too weird. It's that they don't live long. Once they can live for decades like ordinary people, they can even use the ghost ability unscathed. This is the most terrifying. As everyone spoke, the huge dead man tree had completely turned into a paper tree, and was submerged in the Blood River ghost territory. In the end, the doctor did not make a mouthful of guns like the regular villains, and finally he was unwilling to disappear. On the contrary, he did not leave Chen Zan any clues to look for. Instead, it left Chen Zan with doubts. Did he really leave so easily? Did he take anything with him? Chen Zhan's thoughts moved, and the ghost realm of the blood river began to converge, and his eyes began to look at Chen Ruoqing's state. But soon, Chen Zhan realized something was wrong. Chen Ruoqing's face was pale, the ghost hair and the ghost wood comb were all there, and even the scissors were brought back. But she didn't show any signs of wanting Su Xing, and her entire body was no different from a corpse except for the basic vital signs. This doctor moved his hands and feet. Chen Zhan's eyes suddenly turned cold. No wonder the doctor walked so swiftly. Not even the slightest regret for the failure of this operation. It turned out that he had already done tricks on Chen Ruoqing's body. Is that the doctor? A cold glow suddenly appeared in Chen Zhan's eyes. No matter what you do, I will definitely find you and let you know what pain is. The blood river was withdrawn, and Chen Ruoqing was lifted up by the pale ghost hands. The next moment, Chen Zhan's magical ghost realm expanded directly, eliminating doctors from the same place. Swish! In the laboratory of Ghost Rider's headquarters, Chen Zhan and Chen Ruoqing appeared directly on the 5th underground floor. All the staff of Li's were shocked. Tell Luoji to come and see me within 5 minutes. His icy voice resounded, and immediately made everyone completely busy. Soon, Luoji, Lu Pingchuan and others rushed over. Chen Ruoqing's state is not right, I need you to check. Seeing the other party, Chen Zhan commanded directly. It is good. Luoji nodded and didn't ask any extra questions. On the other hand, Lu Pingchuan, who was beside him, looked at Chen Zhan with a little more awe. With a smile on his face, he bowed and bowed. Mr. Gentleman, on behalf of the surviving people of the entire Xiadu, I thank you for your help. Minister Lu doesn't have to do this. Chen Zhan glanced at him lightly. I said that my shot is not free, you can be ready to pay. This must be. Lu Pingchuan hurriedly said, as long as the gentleman has any needs, he can ask us, and we will try our best to meet them. Let's wait until Chen Ruoqing's situation comes out. Chen Zhan's eyes fell on Chen Ruoqing. Now he only cares about his sister's situation and has no time to think about the issue of compensation. The reason I mentioned it just now was to warn Lu Pingchuan not to think that everything was over. After all, Luoji is the doctor who knows Spectre the most in the entire laboratory. After nearly half an hour passed, Luoji walked up to Chen Zhan with a report in his hand. Mr. Gentleman, after our inspection, Chen Ruoqing's vital signs are now normal. Luoji said solemnly, but she hasn't come over so far, I suspect there is a possibility. What is possible? Chen Zhan looked at him. Her consciousness was taken away. Consciousness? Chen Zhan frowned, he never thought that someone could take away consciousness. Yes, according to superstition, it can also be considered a soul. Dr. Luoji explained, this is the conclusion we have come to after a period of research since Li Gui's recovery. First of all, before thinking about consciousness, we want to understand the difference between ghosts and humans. Quote, the difference between a ghost and a human. Not only Chen Zhan, but even Lu Pingchuan and others also expressed doubts. Yes, except for ghosts, most of the ghosts appear in the form of humanoids. If you can compare yourself and find out, the difference between Li ghosts and humans lies in 2 words, consciousness. Luoji said, Spectre ghosts only follow their own instincts, and constantly follow their own killing rules. On the other hand, compared to Spectre, human beings have nothing more than a human consciousness that can think. So, I suspect that Chen Ruoqing's situation was directly robbed of consciousness by some kind of supernatural power. Take away consciousness. Chen Zhan glanced at him, what's the purpose of doing this? First, it is convenient to control Chen Ruoqing's body, so as to control the dead tree, and even control many kinds of ghosts. Luoji flipped through the information. I guess that the doctor can control the dead tree so far. It is very difficult, and if he wants to devour multiple Spectre's abilities at the same time, he must bear the conflict caused by the mutual influence of Spectre's abilities. Ordinary bodies cannot resolve this contradiction at all. And Chen Ruoqing's congenital ghost body is the innate ghost body, which can completely offset the impact of this ghost's recovery. Quote, Luoji is worthy of being a top-notch expert in the study of ghosts, and he has directly analyzed the results that are closest to the facts. There is a second point, he takes away the consciousness, and maybe there are other uses. Luo Ji thought for a while. Of course, it also serves as a bargaining chip, and it is also possible to obtain Chen Ruoqing's body in the future. Damn, this doctor is said to be the craziest scientist in the entire Shenyu technology, but I didn't expect his mind to be so meticulous that he even thought about this. Lu Pingchuan said a little bitterly. He knew that this doctor cost so much, he couldn't just come to a gentleman. Chen Ruoqing in ghost body. Chen Zan stood by and didn't speak. After a moment of silence, he suddenly said, Dr. Luo, if I regain her consciousness, can you restore your body? I can only try this, I can't guarantee success. Dr. Luo Ji said, the Ghost Rider headquarters has a full-length mirror, we call it the Ghost Mirror, and all targets who look at it will be sucked into the mirror after more than 5 seconds, including consciousness of course. If we can get back Chen Ruoqing's consciousness carrier and look in the mirror together with Chen Ruoqing's body, then both consciousness and body will be sucked into the mirror. Consciousness has no way of being alone, and will definitely seek a receptor. At that time, as long as there is only Chen Ruoqing in front of the mirror, they can be integrated. Luo Ji quickly formed a plan in his mind. But the problem now is that fusion is possible. If Chen Ruoqing cannot be pulled out of the mirror in a short time, she may be locked in the mirror forever, until she dies. Does it need to be pulled out? Chen Zan pondered for a moment, and suddenly thought of his portable ghost mirror. Although both are mirrors but have different abilities AICC. The portable ghost mirror can replace the reality with the mirror, so if you put the mirror on the ghost mirror, is it possible to replace the people in the ghost mirror too? He felt very likely to do so. Now that there is a way, Chen Zan nodded, okay, I will think about the rest of the way, the main purpose now is to find the doctor's position first. Minister Lu, on this point, I don't think the Ghost Rider headquarters has no clues, right? Quote exclamation mark quote. Lu Pingchuan said sternly, the friction between Shenyu Technology and Shaoguo has not been a day or two, and we have been looking for the location of their headquarters. However, according to the clues that can be obtained so far, in addition to the headquarters, they also have 2 branches. One for the research department and one for the war department. And the location of this doctor is most likely the research department. Quote, where is this research department? Chen Zan asked. I don't know exactly, but we only know from a spy that their supplies were sent to sea. Maritime. Chen Zan was taken aback. Yes, according to common sense, the research department should be on a small island at sea, or an underwater base similar to a submarine. But we searched a lot of surrounding waters, but did not find any islands and submarines. Quote, island, submarine. Suddenly, Chen Zan's mind flashed the coordinates he had obtained in the Ping'an Welfare Institute. It pointed to a sea area. He asked Zhu Pengcheng to investigate before, but he did not find the possibility of the existence of the island. The coordinates were given to us by our father. So, is it possible that the location is there? It's just that I didn't find it. Chen Zan's heart moved, and he felt as if he had found a clue. Chen Ruoqing will stay here for the time being, and I hope Minister Lu can protect her well. Definitely, Mr. Wei Wang already knows the clues by saying so. Lu Pingchuan heard the meaning of Chen Zan's words and asked subconsciously. Not sure, always try it and see. After Chen Zan finished speaking, he stepped forward, the familiar footsteps sounded, and at the same time, his figure disappeared from the crowd. Dr. Luo, do you think he can find the research department of Shenyu Technology? Seeing Chen Zan disappear, Lu Pingchuan asked. After all, we have been looking for it for so many years, and Shenyu Technology is as if it does not exist in this world. I think he can, Dr. Luo Ji suddenly said. Why? Because the S-level supernatural incidents that even Elder Song couldn't deal with were solved by him alone. As Dr. Luo said, he walked towards the distance, leaving Lu Pingchuan alone. After a while, Lu Pingchuan just reacted and exclaimed, by the way, Song Lao is not there, and the ghost is still in the hands of the gentleman. Chapter 91. Da Da. Above Xiadu Street, Chen Zan's footsteps sounded. He did not use the ability of ghost shoes at all, but just walked on the street like that. Suddenly, the shadow behind him spreads far away in the opposite direction of the light, and directly into the shadow of a building. In the next moment, Chen Zan's figure disappeared from the place strangely, and when it reappeared, it appeared as a shadow in the building. This ghost's ability seems to be more convenient than ghost shoes to use for traveling. Chen Zan came out of the shadows and found himself hundreds of meters away. He nodded with satisfaction, feeling that he appreciated the ability of ghosts. Before, when he appeared, he saw the dead tree's ability to use ghosts to fight. There is already a plan in his heart to let the ghost doll swallow it. So, he didn't rescue Song Lao when he was swallowed by the ghost grave. If Song Lao hadn't died, how could the ghost image be completely intact and still fall into his hands? It's impossible for him to directly snatch someone's ghost in front of the Ghost Rider headquarters, right? Now this practice, even if the headquarters of the Ghost Rider knows, there is no way to say anything. Back at his apartment, Chen Zan contacted Zhu Pengcheng directly. Book me a ticket to Yuncheng. Okay, Mr. Chen. Zhu Pengcheng said quickly. For Chen Zan, he used to be in awe, but now he is grateful. Because the last time Chen Zan told him to let his family leave Xiadu, he heard that the entire Xiadu had suffered a very serious supernatural event. Although the official life is the leakage of natural gas from underground pipelines, causing serious poisoning in local areas. But as long as you inquire carefully, you can know that this matter is not so simple. As Zhu Pengcheng, who has experienced a supernatural event, he naturally knows that this must involve the recovery of the specter. So he was even more fortunate. What a correct decision he made to follow Chen Zan. No company, no chairman, no life, these are all clouds. Going to Yuncheng, is Mr. Chen planning to go to sea? Zhu Pengcheng asked. I happen to have a few yachts in Yuncheng. Would you like to send someone to meet them? Well, yes. Chen Zan thought about it and went there to check the coordinates. It might take a long time. Some trivial things in life should be taken care of. Hanging up the phone, Chen Zan received Zhu Pengcheng's booking information not long after. He doubted whether he would reveal his true identity because of flight information or the like. But it doesn't matter now. Everything must be aimed at finding the consciousness of the younger sister. If the headquarters of the Ghost Rider dares to take the opportunity to do something, Chen Zan doesn't mind giving them a warning. Xiadu is not far from Yuncheng. After less than 2 hours by plane, Chen Zan appeared at Yuncheng Airport. At the gate of the airport, Chen Zan, dressed in casual clothes, saw the figure receiving him. Chu Yuni, graduated with an MBA from a top business university, was originally the department manager in charge of Zhu Pengcheng's branch. But because of his outstanding appearance, this time he was specially assigned by Zhu Pengcheng to receive Chen Zan's work. Although Zhu Pengcheng also has the element of making Chu Yuni serve Chen Zan, but even if Chen Zan does not like it, at least a smart and capable beauty is better than 10 big and 3 rough men. Chu Yuni is wearing a morning professional dress today. Most of her hair is rolled up, and 2 strands of bangs with wavy curls are hammered on the sides. A pair of black stockings and black high-heeled shoes on the lower body perfectly showed her slender and straight beautiful legs. I don't know what this Chen always does. The boss actually pays so much attention to it. With curiosity in her heart, Chu Yuni held a sign at the airport with both hands. I heard that Mr. Chen is not very old. I don't know what he looks like. Just as she was thinking about it, she suddenly saw a tall and handsome figure walking towards her in the pickup port. So handsome, could it be him? With just one glance, Chu Yuni successfully noticed Chen Zan. Because his temperament is really outstanding. Not only is he handsome in appearance, but also has a cold, dusty, and even a little indifferent feeling on his body. It makes people afraid to approach, but can't help but feel curious. In this short 100 meters, several young ladies couldn't help but chat with each other, but they were all repelled by the coldness of the other party. Soon, Chen Zan came to Chu Yuni. Are you coming to pick me up? What? Chu Yuni exclaimed and quickly woke up from her wild thoughts. Yes, Mr. Chen, my name is Chu Yuni, and I am in charge of this reception. Chen Zan nodded lightly. Lead the way. Chu Yuni hurriedly led the way and got into a luxury car soon after. Mr. Chen, I've booked a hotel for you, or else. No need, go to sea first. Chen Zan interrupted her words with an expressionless face. Forehead. Chu Yuni was stunned for a moment. She was very uncomfortable with this President Chen's tone, especially the face of the other party who looked younger than her made her even more uncomfortable. But after all, it was what was explained above, and she could only endure it. Okay, Master Li, let's go to the pier. Afterwards, the inside of the carriage fell into silence. Chu Yuni didn't speak, but looked at Chen Zan secretly. HMPH, at first glance, it looks like some rich boy came here to take a vacation. And I want to accompany you. Quote, she secretly complained in her heart that she was also a dignified MBA, but she didn't expect to be a waitress without a serious job. I thought it was a big client and wanted to talk about a big project. As a result, he went straight to the pier and boarded the yacht. No, Chu Yuni's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he wanted to go out on a yacht, right? OMG, Chu Yuni panicked immediately, even though Chen Zan looked a little handsome and had an outstanding temperament. But she is also a big girl, and she has guarded her body like a jade for more than 20 years. How could it be cheap for him? But what if he does that to himself later? You have agreed to this reception, so do you want to reject him? Just as Chu Yuni was madly making up her mind, the driver's master's voice startled her. President Chen, President Chu, the dock has arrived. Ah, President Chen, shall we get off? Chen Zan got out of the car and asked directly, where is the yacht? Right there. Chu Yunyi pointed to the distance and said nervously. Let's go. Chen Zan walked in front, Chu Yun followed up nervously. Soon Chen Zan was on a luxury yacht. Chu Yunyi stood on the side of the boat, constantly fighting ideological struggles in his mind. If he set foot on this boat, I am afraid that everything would be out of his control. But if you don't go up, you will definitely be criticized. Just as she hesitated, suddenly, the bridge connecting the bow of the boat in front of her suddenly retracted. Chu Yuni suddenly reacted and said quickly, hey, I haven't uploaded it yet. President Chen said, don't look for you, go back and rest. The captain of the yacht greeted Chu Yuni, then turned and left. The Chu Yuni left behind was sluggish in place. I made up so much in my mind, so the clown is actually me. Chen Zan stood at the front of the yacht, looking into the distance, a golden light blooming in his eyes. That is the power of ghost eyes. The reason why Chen Zan came over in person was to check whether there was a supernatural power near the coordinates left by his father. Because, want to avoid the detection of everyone, even including the official search of the Ghost Rider. Chen Zan couldn't think of a second solution other than the ghost ability. It's just that this kind of specter's ability is quite special, and ordinary people can't find it at all. But he has ghost eyes, so he might be able to see some anomalies. After nearly 2 hours of sailing, the yacht stopped. The captain in sailor uniform came over and nodded slightly to Chen Zan. Mr. Chen, the position less than 30 meters in front is the position of the coordinates that Mr. Zhu said. He held the chart in his hand, which was marked on it. We have explored the vicinity of 000 before, except for some reefs several meters deep from the water surface, and did not find any other anomalies. Is that so? Chen Zan nodded. Go over and have a look. Okay. It didn't take long for the yacht to start again, and soon came to the coordinates marked on the chart. Chen Zan looked around and saw some scattered islands looming over the sea in the distance. Other than that, it's all Wang Yang. There is no end in sight at all. There is no supernatural power. This is impossible. The golden light in Chen Zan's eyes flickered and disappeared after a while. He actually didn't find the existence of any supernatural power here, which is simply unreasonable. According to Chen Zan's guess, some supernatural power should be used here, such as the existence of Ghost Realm, which covered it. Let others have no way to find out the exception. But when he really appeared here, he found that something was wrong. Even under the influence of his own ghost eyes, he did not feel any ghostly fluctuations. Could it be because I didn't wear a suit? With speculation, Chen Zan thought directly and put all the suits on his body from the ghost hat. The captain next to him watched in shock as Chen Zan changed his clothes like magic, and almost jumped into the sea to escape without being scared. Fortunately, he had been instructed long ago and knew that Chen Zan was not an ordinary person, so he stabilized and did not escape. After waiting for 10 minutes, Chen Zan suddenly turned around, and the captain with a pure white blood-stained face startled the captain. Let's go back. Ah, good. The captain regained his senses and hurriedly ran back to the cabin. It didn't take long for the yacht to start again. 2 hours later, Chen Zan returned to the luxury hotel closest to the port, in a top suite. Mr. Chen, is there anything else important? Chu Yuni opened the door and asked Chen Zan. What do you want me to need? Chen Zan glanced at her and asked casually. Chu Yun was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say. Hee, it's none of your business, let's go. Chen Zan smiled and did not intend to continue teasing this woman. He could naturally see before that Zhu Pengcheng had arranged such a person in front of him, and there must have been a desire to please him. It's just that Chen Zan's current temperament doesn't have much thought about these things. Just seeing Chu Yuni's nervousness, he deliberately made her laugh. Chu Yuni left, and Chen Zan stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, just able to look at the vast sea in the distance. What's the problem here? Are the coordinates wrong? Or is my method wrong? Chen Zan fell into contemplation. He felt that since the number left by his father could not be useless. 1,234,789. 317,497. Chen Zan asked for a chart from the captain, and looked at the coordinates above in deep thought. After deciphering from Zhu Pengcheng last time, it directly corresponds to this position. And the two sets of numbers just correspond to different longitudes and latitudes. Such a fitting change is impossible to decipher errors. Perhaps, is there something else I've overlooked? Chen Zan was lost in thought. After a night of silence, Chen Zan woke up the next morning and completed his check-in again. The A-level ghost named Ghost Ruler obtained this time. This ghost ruler looks unremarkable, even only 10 centimeters in length. There is no scale on it, it seems that it has been worn and smooth after many years. But as long as Chen Zan puts it on top of any object and manipulates it, it can automatically display numbers, telling the width, length, and even height of the object. In the morning, after running out of breakfast at the hotel, Chen Zan, accompanied by Chu Yuni again, came to the port. Taking the yacht out to sea, Chen Zan still came to the position of yesterday's coordinates this time. Perhaps, in different time periods, different problems can be seen. With such a conjecture, Chen Zan couldn't help but stay on the yacht all day. As a result, until the sun went down, no abnormality emerged. Could it be underwater? Chen Zan looked at the location marked by the coordinates, and could even see a faint reef under the water. Just instinct, both to try. Chen Zan held the ghost ruler in his hand and aimed at the reef below on the water. Measure the depth of the reef from the surface. As the words fell, a string of numbers appeared on the ghost ruler. If you look closely at these figures, it seems that someone has carved them with blood on them with a carving knife. It looks eerie, but when Chen Zan saw the numbers on the ghost ruler, his pupils suddenly shrank. 31.7497. How can this depth be exactly the same as the numbers on the coordinates? Originally, Chen Zan was still playing drums in his heart, but now he is finally determined. This number is definitely not a coincidence, whether or not it is related to the location of the Shenyu technology experiment. But there must be a great secret. Now that he has found the secret hidden in the first set of numbers, what is the other set of numbers? 1,234,789. This seemingly no secret number, what secret is hidden? The sun went down and the sky darkened. Seeing this, Chen Zan had to leave here and return to the hotel by 0.2 degrees. Next, he sent this set of numbers to Zhu Pengcheng and asked him to continue to find someone to analyze. In addition to coordinates, there must be other meanings. And Chen Zan himself, in the next time, still came to the sea every day to observe and look for possible clues. He also did not expect that he would actually stay here for nearly 7 days. Even he has signed 6 times, and even if there is one more time, he can go directly to the 4th weekly signing. Of course, the 4th weekly signing is not what Chen Zan is most concerned about. As long as the 3rd day after the end of the weekly signing, he can carry out the first monthly signing since the system has been owned. Weekly sign-up is an S-level reward, so what rewards will there be for monthly sign-up? When looking for clues, the strong expectations of Japanese stocks could not help but emerge. Minister Liu, there has been no news from Mr. Gentleman recently. Shadu, Ghost Rider headquarters, Lu Pingchuan's assistant put a stack of documents in front of his desk. Is that so? Lu Pingchuan rubbed his eyebrows and put down the information in his hand. In the past few days, a double S-rank supernatural incident has been handled by the gentleman alone. But the follow-up finishing work also created a lot of trouble. Hundreds of thousands of people in the entire northeastern region were killed in this miraculous event. This alone is enough to give him a headache for a long time. It's been almost a week. Can Mr. Gentleman find the headquarters of Shenyu Technology? Lu Pingchuan hated Shenyu Technology, and it was their existence that led to this huge disaster. Although Mr. Gentleman is missing, we have some other information that we would like to share with you. The assistant put a folder on Lu Pingchuan's desk. Here is the information I found from the airport, about Chen Ruoqing's big brother, Chen Zan. 11. The assistant explained, we investigated, since Chen Ruoqing fell into a deep sleep, he booked a ticket to Yuncheng at noon that day and stayed there for 6 days. So far, there are no plans to leave. Quote, Lu Pingchuan's eyes flashed, what is he going to do? It's nothing. According to the information of the local tourism bureau, Mr. Chen just goes out to sea on a yacht every day, and he goes there for a day. Other than that, there is no other situation. Going to sea. Lu Pingchuan fell into contemplation, and waved his hand after a moment. Okay, I know, go ahead and inform Dr. Luo and let him come over. Yes, Minister. The assistant left, and soon Dr. Luo came to Lu Pingchuan's office. Lu Pingchuan pointed to the information on the table and said to Dr. Luo, come on, sit down and look at this. 5 minutes later, Dr. Luo closed the folder. The minister came to me to ask about the relationship between Chen Zan and the gentleman. Minister Lu nodded and said, actually, Chen Ruoqing has not been home for a long time, and Chen Zan, as her big brother, has never made a phone call to inquire. Either he has no feelings for Chen Ruoqing and doesn't care about her life or death. Or, he already knew Chen Ruoqing's state, and it was useless to make a phone call. So, Minister Lu now thinks Chen Zan is Mr. Gentleman. Dr. Luo Ji said, yes. Lu Pingchuan nodded, apart from this reason, I can't think of any other possibility. Although we have investigated before, we cannot rule out the possibility that he has supernatural powers that can prevent us from investigating. Minister Lu's analysis is correct. Dr. Luo Ji did not refute, but suddenly asked back, but I want to know, Minister Lu feels that even if he knows that Chen Zan is a gentleman, what's the point? Of course there is. As long as we master his true identity, we can use this to deal with him. Minister Lu frowned. You know, the gentleman's performance this time is far ahead of the abilities of our only remaining 2S-ranked Ghost Riders. Even, he also took away the first-class movie of the future. If we can't control him, then at least we must have some capital that can check and balance him. That's right. Dr. Luo Ji nodded. I don't know much about politics, but what I know is, Minister Lu, do you think these gentlemen can't think of it? Lu Pingchuan was taken aback. What do you mean, Dr. Luo? I mean very simply. Dr. Luo Ji said lightly, if Chen Zan is a gentleman, he has no reason not to know that his information will be exposed to our vision. Not to mention that we can associate his identity with a gentleman through these speculations. But even so, he still chose to fly. This shows what? Lu Pingchuan instantly thought of a possibility, but Dr. Luo in front of him had already given him the answer. That is, he is not afraid of being exposed. In other words, he has enough confidence to deal with all means after his identity is exposed. Quote. Speaking of which, Dr. Luo paused, including us. Lu Pingchuan's heart skipped a beat. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had to admit it now. Chen Zan does have the capital to compete with the entire Ghost Rider headquarters. Especially after he personally solved the pair of S-level supernatural incidents, this kind of deterrence to the headquarters and even the entire Ghost Rider circle has reached a very high level. Even now, even internationally, those Ghost Riders from other countries have to remember the Ghost Rider codenamed Gentleman. It even had a positive impact on the entire Sha Kingdom. Because it is speculated in the world that the Gentleman is the top S-level Ghost Master secretly cultivated by the headquarters of the Ghost Masters in the Sha Kingdom. Originally, he wanted to continue to hide, but this time, the S-level supernatural event made him exposed in advance. Because of this, all the major ghost control organizations in the world that were just around the corner were suppressed. The appearance of the Gentleman actually shocked many uneasy factors during the research. With a long sigh, Lu Pingchuan said, Dr. Na Luo, in your opinion, how should we handle the next relationship with Mr. Gentleman? Hearing this, Dr. Luo was silent for a moment, then suddenly stood up and was about to leave. Minister Lu, I am a researcher, and I don't have any direct views on this. But in my personal opinion, it is best not to deal with it. Quote, don't deal with it. That's right, the times have changed, and the one who will control the world in the future must be a ghost master with the power of ghosts. And all we can do is maintain the current state. At least, so far, the gentleman's attitude towards us is okay. We might as well just go with the flow. If one day he is willing to tell us his true identity, we will naturally welcome him. But if we don't say it, we don't have to force it. Any unnecessary action will become a potential possibility of disgust. Quote, Lu Pingchuan was silent for a moment, and finally nodded, okay, I will respond to the minister as soon as possible, not only to acquiesce to the current handling of Mr. Gentleman. Need more help. Without giving, there is no gain. When supernatural events occur frequently in the future, Mr. Gentleman is definitely one of our most important hopes. Quote, Minister Lu is very smart. After saying a word, Dr. Luo wanted to push the door and go out. And many more. Lu Pingchuan suddenly said, Dr. Luo, as you said, Chen Ruelking's importance is no less than S-rank Yu Siji. Understood, I will do my best to keep her safe. Luo Ji nodded and left immediately. On the other hand, Chen Zan naturally did not know that the entire Ghost Rider headquarters had a new discussion about his attitude again. As night fell, Chen Zan received a message from Zhu Pengcheng. There is already a scheme for the possible secrets of the first set of numbers. First, the distance extended in the longitude direction. Second, take the underwater reef as the base point, the longitude as the base, and the direction of the numerical angle. Third, the numbers in the back represent the time, while the numbers in the front represent the distance. 3 options. Chen Zan looked at the content on the document. Since this is the case, let's try it all. 789, which stands for 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. He thought about it and decided to go straight to this time in the morning the next day to see if he could find similar clues. What reasoning, what conjecture, does not exist. Just find the possible ways to try it out. The next morning, as soon as Chen Zan woke up, he informed the captain that the boat was ready to go to sea. And he himself is the first to open the 4th weekly signing. Ding! The sign-in is completed. Congratulations to the host for getting the reward. S+ level Spectre, Destiny Ghost Bell. Open black lens bracket Ghost Clock of Destiny. Close black lens bracket. This is an old wall clock. Because it was damaged, I had to lower my rating, but its potential is extraordinary. It is said that there is a demon who can play with time. Don't worry, it's listening to you now. But it should be noted that excessive play with time will cost a lot. Destiny Ghost Bell. Chen Zan's eyes lit up when he heard the name. He didn't expect the system to give this reward so well. The S+ rating was beyond his expectations. Moreover, from the introduction of the entire reward, the original level of this Fate Ghost Clock does not seem to stop there. It's just that it is damaged for some reason, so it will appear in the rewards of the weekly lottery. Of course, what makes Chen Zan even more delighted is the ability that Destiny Ghost Bell possesses. Playing with time, these 4 words alone are enough to prove its power. Chen Zan looked at his hand subconsciously, but found that the so-called Ghost Bell of Fate did not appear. However, just when he was puzzled, he suddenly felt that something abnormal appeared behind him. He happened to be able to see through the full-length mirror, and in the mirror, a looming shadow of a wall clock emerged from behind. What a wall clock this is! The whole body seems to be a European-style clock frame made of vermilion wood, more than 1 meter high, and there are ancient and complicated carvings on it. It's just that because of the age, some paint peels off, and even some fine cracks appear. In the upper half of the wall clock, a circular clock dial emerges. The hour, minute, and second hands on the dial face the current time. But strangely, the entire wall clock fell into a translucent state. Chen Zan subconsciously wanted to reach out and haunt, but failed. He couldn't touch it. How does this work? Chen Zan looked at the wall clock in the mirror and became puzzled. Thoughts surged in his mind. He subconsciously communicated with the wall clock. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of the clock striking came from the wall clock, and then something strange happened. From the back of the wall clock, there was a person who was extremely pale and covered with corpses. The human hand is a bit illusory, and as soon as it appears, it goes around from the back to the front, passing through the dial and falling on the hands inside. Then, the originally beating second hand stopped strangely, as if it was forcibly pushed back by a tragic white hand. Chen Zhan's eyes jumped, and he found that his body was retreating. It wasn't that he took the initiative to retire, but he walked over from the sofa a few seconds ago. Right now, it's all going backwards, like going back in time. And, with the fiddling of the ghost hands, this reverse flow continues. Soon, Chen Zhan felt a sense of emptiness and coldness filling his body. He even felt that his energy was being rapidly drained. Immediately, he thought about it, and quickly stopped this operation. The ghost hand disappeared, and the time for the reverse flow came to an abrupt end. And Chen Zhan himself was already standing on the sofa. This is reboot. Chen Zhan was silent for a while, and suddenly thought of the situation mentioned in the documents he had seen from the headquarters of Ghost Rider. That is some powerful specter, with a ghost domain that can be restarted. The so-called restart means that the target in the ghost domain can return to a certain time node in an instant. This ability is very terrifying, even a specter who possesses a ghost realm may not be able to do it. According to records, the Ghost Forest Hut incident, the Ghost Church incident, and the Horror Wax Museum incident that have appeared in foreign countries so far are ghost incidents known to have the ability to restart. This shows how rare it is for Spectre to restart his ability. Moreover, as long as the Spectre that can be restarted, they must have the Ghost Realm, and not all the Spectre ghosts who have the Ghost Realm can be restarted. So, this Fate Ghost Clock also has Ghost Realm. A golden light flashed in Chen Zhan's eyes, and he suddenly realized that when the Ghost Bell of Fate appeared, there was an invisible ripple around him that spread out around him. As long as it is within the influence of the ripple, it can be restarted according to his will. However, in comparison, the range of influence of this ripple does not seem to be large, at most it can only look up and down a few hundred meters. Of course, even if it was only a few hundred meters, it was very scary. Moreover, Chen Zhan found that as long as he simply maintained the ghost domain, it would not cause too much load on himself. Once a restart is required, it will have an effect. After repeated attempts, he found that the limit time he could restart so far was 1 minute. As long as 1 minute, any time can be restarted. But this is purely for a purpose. If it is a specter, this consumption will increase. On the contrary, if it is aimed at ordinary people, the restart time of J will increase tenfold. To about 10 minutes. After learning about the ability of the Ghost Bell of Fate, Chen Zhan controlled the other party to gradually disappear behind his head. After changing into casual clothes and wearing a bowler hat, Chen Zhan went out the door. Now he is much more skilled than before because of the perfection of Li Gui's puzzles. Even in the event of danger, with a single thought, the ghost magician suit of Li Gui Jiju can directly cover the whole body. The ghost dolls and the straw ghosts hidden in the ghost hats can be on call at any time. There are also many ghosts obtained by signing in, which are also placed in it. The current Chen Zhan, who seems to be harmless to humans and animals, is actually a walking warehouse of ghosts. As soon as he went out, Chen Zhan was stunned for a moment, because Chu Yuni was waiting there in a bohemian dress and a straw hat. The tailored fabrics perfectly complement her exaggerated curves. Backquote, "Why are you here?" Chen Zhan was stunned for a moment, then asked. "I'm here to compensate President Chen for going to sea." Chu Yuni smiled. "Unnecessary." Chen Zhan shook his head. He had his own arrangements, but he didn't want to carry a fuel bottle. After saying that, he turned around and walked towards the elevator. But when he heard this, Chu Yuni's face suddenly collapsed, and he quickly followed. Mr. Chen, wait for me." She chased in front of Chen Zhan, with a hint of pleading on her face. "Take me with you, Mr. Zhu has already scolded me several times. If you don't bring me this time, I'm afraid my job will be gone." Quote. Originally, Chu Yun thought that he was responsible for receiving Chen Zhan this time and it was over. Unexpectedly, Mr. Zhu calls every day to ask about Chen Zhan's situation. Later, when he learned that he was not with Chen Zhan, he immediately scolded himself bloody. And he also threatened that if he can't accompany Chen Zan, it's not just that the company can't stay. Even in the future in the entire Yuncheng business circle, no one can continue to use her. Chu Yuni panicked at the time. This is her hometown, and she has worked hard for many years, well done, in the interpersonal circle. If it is really ruined, then she really doesn't know what to do with herself. No way, she specially dressed up today, ready to put down all her arrogance. Chen Zan goes to sea. Even if the other party made some excessive demands on the yacht, she was ready to reluctantly agree. However, Chen Zan listened to her words and just glanced at her. Then you don't need to go, you go back, I will call Zhu Pengcheng, it will not affect your future. After speaking, without waiting for Chu Yuni to react, he walked straight into the elevator and left. Looking at the elevator that had already left, Chu Yuni froze in place. So don't let me go. Is there any sympathy? When her mind was churning, her mouth suddenly bulged. HMPH, if you don't let me go, I'll go by myself. She hurriedly pressed the other elevators, ready to go to the pier to rent a yacht by herself. At least it counts as one's own. At that time, it will be a good deal for Mr. Zhu. Mr. Chen, is that position still today? Yuncheng Wharf, the captain saw Chen Zan appear and took the initiative to speak. Chen Zan nodded. Today you bring a lifeboat, wait for the position, take the lifeboat yourself and leave first. The captain was stunned for a moment when he heard the words, but then nodded and said, okay. He is much smarter than Chu Yuni and knows that his role is to cooperate with Chen Zan, not a problem. Not long after, the lifeboat was ready, and the yacht slowly sailed out of the port in the morning light, heading in the established direction. Just as the yacht set off, Chu Yuni, who was wearing a bohemian dress, also came to the pier. Rent a speedboat directly, Captain, keep up with that yacht, fast. Good lady. The captain held a thick stack of banknotes and started the speedboat without hesitation. An hour later, Chen Zan stood at the bow of the boat, watching the captain, who was already receding in the lifeboat. The reason why he let the other party leave is because today he is going to try the decryption method several times before. If it is really successful, it may directly enter the headquarters of the ghost controllers of Shenyu Technology. At that time, maybe even the living people around will be enclosed. The captain himself is quite clever and has been very responsible these days. Chen Zan naturally didn't want to take him to his death. Ordinary people, in the face of supernatural power, are simply too fragile. It's almost 7. Looking at the time, Chen Zan thought about it and put on all his suits. Immediately after stepping on his feet, he jumped directly into the sea as a minister. Strangely, when he fell into the sea, a bit of scarlet ghost blood seemed to spread out from under his feet, and he was forced to stand on the sea surface. A figure, standing on the surface of the sea out of thin air, whoever looked at it felt incredible. And this scene happened to be watched by Chu Yuni, who came from a distance. Ah, Mom, is he a human or a ghost? Chu Yuni stood on the boat and looked in the direction of Chen Zan from a distance. In order not to be discovered by Chen Zan, she was hundreds of meters away from Chen Zan, and she couldn't help feeling chills down her spine when she saw this scene. Beauty, you let me go out to sea in the morning, wouldn't you be here to see ghosts? The captain of the speedboat also saw this scene, and his heart jumped wildly. What nonsense, he must be stepping on something, otherwise how could he stand on the sea? Chu Yuni patted his undulating chest and said directly, Captain, please turn off the engine, let's quietly lean over to see what's going on. I'm not going. The ship Afe shook his head in fear. I feel a little hairy in this place, and I'm going back. Hey, don't go. Chu Yuni hurriedly stopped and said, I can add more money, can't I just add more money? Add 5,000. The captain smiled and showed his true colors. Okay, starting on the ground, 2,000, and the old lady dived and swam over by herself. Deal. Scan the code. The captain agreed without thinking, and earning an extra 2,000 yuan is simply not too cost-effective. Knowing that she was being tricked, Chu Yuni had no choice but to pay the other party. Now that the money is collected, you should listen to me, right? Chu Yun replied, turn off the engine and slowly drive over. Okay. The captain nodded, turned off the fire, took out the oars and rowed. On the other hand, Chen Zan did not notice Chu Yuni's situation, but frowned slightly and looked into the distance. Isn't the first one wrong? Chen Zan extended along the longitude direction, and did not see any abnormal situation in the distance. In this way, the first possibility is ruled out. The second is based on longitude, looking for the angle that the numbers match. This tool for measuring angles, Chen Zan also brought. Soon he found another angle, and this time, it was a little rewarding. At his location, when looking at an angle of more than 100 degrees in the distance, he found a large piece of reef scattered on the sea. But Chen Zan stared at the reef for a long time and found nothing unusual. The direction is likely to be right, and then it may be wrong, it may be time or location. Chen Zan looked at the sea under his feet, and with a thought, he immediately removed the ghost realm. Puff! His figure fell directly into the seawater and began to sink strangely. When Chu Yuni saw that Chen Zan had actually fallen into the sea, she immediately exclaimed, "Quick, let's go over and save people." Although he doesn't know the reason, Chu Yuni knows that if he falls into the water and doesn't rescue him immediately, he will die. Seeing this, the captain immediately pulled the engine of the speedboat and ignited the engine directly. In the roar, the speedboat directly accelerated and rushed towards the direction where Chen Zan fell into the water. At the same time, Chen Zan had sunk to the bottom, and his toes just landed on the marked reef. Then he also looked at the original angle underwater. Suddenly his pupils shrank. In the shimmering water, at that angle, Chen Zan found a huge arched reef at the bottom of the water. The reef was several meters wide and high, and a door-shaped hole appeared inside. This didn't surprise him. To his surprise, Chen Zan actually saw a door handle inlaid on the empty side. Yes, it's the door handle. The door handle of an ordinary security door was actually suspended in the sea as a minister out of thin air. This is worth thinking about. And, if it wasn't for Chen Zan's help with ghost eyes, he wouldn't have been able to see such details. Who cares about an ordinary doorknob in the middle of the sea? Swish! Chen Zan stepped forward, and his figure moved quickly in the sea. On the other side, seeing Chen Zan sinking into the sea, Chu Yuni, who did not move at all, jumped directly into the sea in anxiety. "Hey, are you committing suicide by jumping into the sea?" The captain couldn't help but exclaimed when he saw this scene. "I'm only responsible for sailing the boat, not for saving people." Puff! Chu Yuni breathed a sigh of relief on the sea, and said, "Suicide your sister. Did I grow up in the sea? Captain, wait here, I'll go down to save people." Quote. Saying that, she took a deep breath and plunged straight into the sea. But after looking around, she was suddenly stunned, because there was no trace of Chen Zan in the sea. Shouldn't it be washed away? Chu Yuni turned to look around, and suddenly saw a figure walking in the sea in the distance. Walking in sea water. Chu Yuni felt that all this was too weird. But for the reason of saving people, she still tried her best to swim towards the distance. But as a girl who grew up by the sea, she soon discovered that her speed was far behind Chen Zan. A few minutes later, Chen Zan stood in the sea, looking at the doorknob suspended above the arch. The hand with the ghost glove is on it and twists slightly. Click! It sounded like a door opening. The next moment, a strange wave spread from the door instantly, covering him and even Chu Yuni who had just approached. Chen Zan felt as if he had opened a door and walked through it like this. The sea water in front of him suddenly disappeared, and he felt as if he had come to a dark environment. But before he could react, he felt someone bumped his back. Turning back subconsciously, he saw Chu Yunijung, drenched all over his body, looking around in horror. "Why did you follow me?" Chen Zan frowned at her. The pure white dye and the mask looked very gloomy in the dark. "What?" Chu Yuni exclaimed and suddenly grabbed Chen Zan's arm. "Chen, Mr. Chen. I thought you fell into the sea and came to save you." "What? How could this be? You better stay here, or don't blame me if you die." Chen Zan glanced at her. He didn't expect that when the door handle was opened, it could affect the surrounding area. But as soon as his voice fell, the dark space around him suddenly began to light up. It was as if lights appeared one after another. Clap, clap, clap. The dazzling lights illuminated the surroundings, and then a conversation was heard continuously. "What day is it today? Are the supplies actually arriving?" "Yeah, the doctor didn't explain the need for supplies today." Never mind, maybe he forgot to notify us. Just as he was speaking, Chen Zan saw several figures in white uniforms approaching from a distance. Chen Zan looked at them, and they naturally saw Chen Zan. In an instant, several figures stopped at the same time, and then their expressions changed. Who? Show ID or we'll just shoot. Swish. The dark barrels of the guns were aimed at Chen Zan and Chu Yuni one after another. These people had a strong sense of vigilance in their eyes, and there was a tendency to take action if they disagreed. Proof of identity. Chen Zan whispered to himself, I have no proof, but I have this. Everyone's pupils suddenly shrank, not knowing the meaning of Chen Zan's words. But at this moment, they suddenly saw fine blood droplets appearing in the air. No, he's a ghost hunter, shoot now. Someone reacted, and immediately pulled the trigger, and suddenly fierce gunshots resounded throughout the space. Chu Yuni was so frightened that she squatted down with her head in her head and shouted loudly. However, Chen Zan's face was calm from beginning to end, even a little indifferent. Caw caw caw. Those blood beads just trembled, and they merged into the bodies of several shooting figures. In an instant, their bodies were assimilated by ghost blood, fused, and became new ghosts. And the flying bullets were also resisted by the ghost blood. After doing all this, Chen Zan walked over to the corpse with only clothes left, and glanced at it. Although I don't know it, it should be the symbol of Shenyu technology, right? Chen Zan glanced at the text above, it should be written in cherry blossom language. Although he could only read half a word, he was very sure that this was a department of Shenyu technology. Having solved this, Chen Zan looked around. It was a huge warehouse with a long passage in front of it, and there seemed to be an elevator at the end. It looks similar to the feeling of a freight terminal. However, this pier is not built in the water, but in another world. A world like Elm Street. Chen Zan is no stranger to this situation, this space independent of another space, which he has experienced twice before. No wonder people can't find this place, a space similar to Elm Street opened through the doorknob, and the doorknob itself is hidden enough. It's really hard to find. Quote, Chen Zan whispered to himself, if it weren't for me having ghost eyes, plus the string of coordinates left by my father, I am afraid it is difficult to find the problem. Good thing I found it now. I guess the sound should have caught their attention, right? Chen Zan secretly guessed in his heart, since this is the case, we must speed up. As he spoke, he stepped forward, and his figure quickly disappeared from the spot. Almost in the blink of an eye, he came to the depths of the passage. When Chu Yuni saw this scene, she was stunned and froze in place. What did I see? Is this the world I know? Wait, what do I do now? She suddenly found the empty space around her and the clothes left in front of her, and suddenly felt the fear begin to magnify. He got up from the ground and ran after Chen Zan's direction. At this time, Chen Zan ignored the existence of Chu Yuni. In his opinion, since the other party is involved, he can only ask for more blessings. He has no obligation or responsibility to save himself. After all, he had always told her before that he didn't need her to come. Standing at the elevator door, he found that he needed to enter a password or even a fingerprint for verification. Naturally Chen Zan didn't, but it wasn't a problem for him. The shadow underfoot suddenly raised his hand, held it on the switch, and pulled it gently. Click. The power of the ghost shadow is beyond the imagination of ordinary people, and it directly opens the door abruptly. Chen Zan walked into the elevator and looked at the numbers inside. A total of 10 floors. Currently this is the ground floor location, the rest are upstairs. He didn't plan to take the elevator, he just wanted to use the elevator to judge the current floor. Since you're here, let's look for it layer by layer. Chen Zan whispered to himself, a touch of pale golden light began to bloom from his eyes. Next moment, the rays of light penetrated, and it began to spread from all over his body. The ghost realm has spread. In an instant, it spread upstairs. This is the ghost realm compiled by the illusion. As long as it is not gold, it can easily penetrate all substances. Soon the ghost domain came to the second floor. Chen Zan's thoughts moved, and the figure disappeared directly from the place. Hey, which floor are we going to deliver this batch of materials to? On the second floor, many uniformed staff were busy, and in front of them, rectangular boxes were being opened. If you look closely, it is filled with living people who have fallen into a deep sleep. What makes people creepy is that these living people are actually called materials in their mouths. Ah, is there a label on it without looking at it? Someone impatiently said, the number is written on it, and it will be sent to the floor. Are you new here? You don't even know this. Aha, really? I've only been here for less than a month, thank you for reminding me. Better be careful, don't send it wrong, or the doctor will kill you. Sure, saying that, the staff pushed two materials and left the gate. The other person couldn't help but slandered, I don't know how many new people die every day, but there are always new people coming over, really. What floor is the doctor on now? Suddenly, a low voice resounded from the side. How do I know what floor the doctor is on? Don't be curious, you newcomer. The staff member turned back subconsciously, but his heart trembled instantly. Saw a pure white blood-stained mask. How do I know what floor the doctor is on? Don't be curious, you newcomer. The staff member instinctively wanted to scold each other, and wanted to live a long life here. The biggest taboo was not to inquire about the doctor. However, before he finished speaking, he saw a pure white and blood-stained mask appear beside him. In an instant, all the words that reached his mouth stopped abruptly. The extremely pale mask was strangely stained with a layer of bright red blood. This blood was clearly stained on the mask, but it seemed to flow down. Unspeakably weird, eerie, terrifying. You're not good. The staff member reacted immediately and instinctively wanted to call for help. But at this moment, the voice under the pure white mask suddenly sounded. Tell me, where is the doctor? The dull voice sounded, but 263 contained a strange magic, which made all his thoughts limited in an instant, as if there was only one voice in his mind. Tell him, tell him, tell him, The staff member's expression instantly froze, and then he said, I don't know. Then do you know anything about the doctor? Chen Zan felt that his question did not seem to be comprehensive, so he asked again. The doctor has never appeared here. I heard that he is only active in the space above the 5th floor. The staff responded with a demented face, it's the most critical place in the scientific research building, and most people don't have permission to lose it. Is that so? Chen Zan pondered for a moment and said indifferently, then you can die. Click. Invisibly, a strange force emerged out of thin air, and suddenly broke the neck of the staff member. At the same time, what was even more strange was that in the entire room, all the other staff members seemed to have never seen this scene. Everyone was busy with their own affairs, and it seemed that they didn't see or even hear any sound at all. This is the role of the magic ghost domain. Distorting human senses, people completely lose the ability of the 5 senses. After solving one, Chen Zan silently spread his ghost domain, covering the entire floor directly. Then, tiny drops of blood emerged from the air, followed by all the people who were still at work. They all started from their own throats, which were corroded and melted a little bit, leaving only a work uniform. And from the beginning to the end, they did not even scream, as if they were not dead at all. This is the effect formed after the double ghost domain is superimposed. The ghost realm distorts the senses so that they forget the pain and the change. It seems that in their minds, they are still continuing to work, and there is no problem with everything. Looking at the densely covered work uniforms on the entire floor, Chen Zan showed no pity in his eyes. These people can appear here, obviously they are employees of Shenyu Technology. And these employees can watch those living people indifferent and transport them back and forth like goods. Chen Zan would not believe them if they were innocent. Moreover, since Chen Zan came here, he is already completely hostile to Shenyu Technology. For the enemy, of course, to destroy everything that can be destroyed. Even people or no exception. The entire 2nd floor was completely emptied by Chen Zan in just a few seconds. He stepped onto the 3rd floor with a blank expression, and began to clean up in the same way. Certainly, on each floor, ask a staff member who may know the position of the doctor. Under the influence of the ghost mask ability, there is no chance for them to lie. The 4th and 5th floors were similarly cleaned up. Thousands of people died completely in Chen Zan's ghost realm. When Chen Zan was standing on the stairs on the 5th and 6th floors, a gate wrapped in gold blocked his way. Also, the entire elevator has completely stopped running. Looks like it was discovered. Chen Zan looked up at the ceiling above and whispered to himself. This, as early as when he came here, knew that it would definitely be discovered. It's just that the speed and way of the other party's reaction is a bit more ruthless than he imagined. Blocking the entire 6th floor is equivalent to giving up all the staff below the 5th floor. However, this did not stop Chen Zan from moving forward. Come out, dolls and scarecrows. As he murmured, ghost dolls and scarecrow ghosts emerged from behind him. The ghost doll is tall and has exaggerated curves. The 10 pairs of eyes are a little dull. The scarecrow ghost wears a straw hat, holds a death scythe, and shows a weird and exaggerated smile on a round head. Just as the two figures appeared, Chen Zan said lightly in front of him. Cut it apart. He was talking about the blocked stairway door wrapped in gold. The power of Spectre can't penetrate it, but the sharpness of the death god's scythe can do it. The scarecrow ghost man grinned and stood at the door with the death scythe in hand. As soon as the arm moved, the sickle was slowly raised directly. Hit the door with a knife. The supernatural power is not there, but the sharpness of the sickle itself cuts the gate very easily. Scoff. The entire gate was pulled out by a long gap, and it was discovered that there was actually a steel plate nearly half a meter thick. Obviously, without considering the supernatural power, simple defense is also very terrifying. If it weren't for the scarecrow man, Chen Zan would obviously have had a hard time. The door was torn, and the straw ghost man walked directly to the door, stretched out some slender hands and began to tear in the crack of the door. Scoff. The door was torn open. A dark staircase was revealed. Chen Zan glanced at it lightly and stepped directly into the stairwell. I don't know if it was an illusion, but just after he took a few steps, he felt that the entire stairwell was unusually dark. It seems that there is a dim light ignited around it, but when looking at it from a distance, it can only be pitch black. Chen Zan didn't open his mouth, but he was very clear that there must be a supernatural force covering this place. Just as he was thinking about what exactly this force 3.4 was. Suddenly, an unusually familiar voice sounded behind him. Big brother. Chen Zan was stunned for a moment, feeling that the voice seemed to be his sister Chen Ruoking. He instinctively wanted to look back. Because this voice is so similar to my sister, it is exactly the same as the voice of my sister in my head. Can't even think about it. However, just a second before he turned around, the ghost doll turned around first. Looking behind. What? A scream suddenly resounded. The strange sound disappeared instantly. What? A shrill scream rang out, but it wasn't the scream of a ghost. Because Spectre himself doesn't have such a voice. The only ones who can emit it can only be people, so to put it simply, it is the Ghost Rider. When Chen Zan turned around, he found a short and chubby figure that looked no more than 1.5 meters tall, but on one face there was another head. Half of it is a hideous, no nose, no eyes, only the mouth of the evil spirit head. Just now, it was the head of this evil spirit who called out to him. This should be a ghost. As long as you call you back, you will be killed directly by the ghost. This is a mortal murder rule, and it is very scary. It is a pity it didn't wait for Chen Zan to turn back, and let the ghost doll turn back first. She glanced at it, so Spectre's ability was instantly suppressed. At the same time, the chubby man who was using the Spectre's ability screamed. Because the killing rules were actually invalid, he was also suppressed by the ghost doll. The ghost doll can suppress not only the ghost, but if it is placed on a human body, it can also directly produce the effect of killing in seconds. A ghost. As a ghost hunter, you should know where the doctor is. Chen Zan said coldly. The chubby figure was about to speak, but was suddenly swallowed up by the darkness that surged up around him, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chen Zan narrowed his eyes and stared coldly at the darkness that stretched the stairs. This is the ghost realm. No, it's not just the power of the ghost realm. The golden light in Chen Zan's eyes flowed, and he seemed to see the essence of it. This kind of manipulation seems to be more flexible than ghost domain. And this darkness seems to have always existed, not suddenly opened. That said, it's definitely not a ghost. But a ghost. Only ghosts can automatically release the power of ghosts without being controlled by ghost masters. Although he let the ghost run away, Chen Zan didn't worry too much, but stood in place and quietly analyzed the ability of this dark existence. Block the line of sight, and let the specter appear silently beside him. No, wait, not silently. If it is silent, it must have appeared the moment he stepped into the door. So, there must be some limitations here. What is the limit? Chen Zan thought to himself, but his footsteps moved again. He walked up the stairs again. Not long after, they arrived at the door of the 6th floor. Chen Zan looked at the door, but did not open it, but continued to walk up. Since the other party knew that he had come in, he might have guessed that he would go to the 6th floor. Perhaps, the other party had already set up an ambush on the 6th floor. Although Chen Zan is not afraid, he has to be cautious. The reason why Chen Zan went up step by step was not that Chen Zan did not use his abilities, but that he was looking for possible laws. When he strolled up to the 7th floor, there was no attack by the ghosts. And this time, Chen Zan once again let the straw ghost man take action and destroy the entire gate again. The ghost doll walked first, followed by the straw ghost man. Chen Zan stayed at the end. As soon as I went out, I didn't find any movement around, and there seemed to be no danger at all. Chen Zan stepped into it and found that the entire 7th floor looked very empty, like a huge showroom. Or an exhibition hall. In the exhibition hall, there are several booths scattered in the middle, most of which are empty, and there are also some strange things. Chen Zan stood at the door and not only started to look at it. Without noticing at all, on the left and right sides of the door, there are two human-shaped figures that are similar to the ancient Western soldiers' armor pieced together. They were dark in color, as if completely obscured by the surrounding darkness. Just as Chen Zan was observing, suddenly, the two armors lifted up without warning, and the sharp swords in their hands swung extremely quickly, swept across Chen Zan's neck. Click! Chen Zan was caught off guard, but he was taken aback. The strength and inertia of this great sword were surprisingly great, and in an instant, Chen Zan's head fell to the ground. Blood spurted out from the neck. It was like a bloody fountain. Even the ghost doll next to him was sluggish, and the scarecrow ghost who just raised the sickle also put it down. It's like losing contact with Chen Zan. The entire exhibition hall fell directly into this silence. Silent, silent, eerie. This level actually continued for a few minutes. In the darkness in the distance, the sound of a door opening resounded. Then, I saw the sound of footsteps approaching. Gradually, a figure wearing a white coat and glasses, with a handsome appearance, like a gentle and elegant scholar, came out. Did he really die like this? A slightly interested voice rang out. Oops, Chen Zan, I didn't expect you to be so careless and killed by me. The doctor was obviously a little disappointed. But just as his voice fell, a sound of knife light breaking through the air actually appeared in the air. Swish! The sharp light of the knife swept across his neck. A head was actually cut out of thin air. On the other side, the corpse and head that had fallen on the ground had mysteriously disappeared. A brand new figure appeared again, it was Chen Zan. Reciprocal exchanges, because of the family's approval. Chen Zan looked at the head that fell to the ground and said lightly, Doctor, I know that you are not yourself, so you don't have to perfunctory me anymore. Strangely, the head that fell to the ground did not actually die. Still talking. Hee, Chen Zan, I'm curious, you were just a failure back then, why are you able to give me such a big surprise now? Failure, me. Chen Zan was stunned for a moment, feeling a lot of information in his mind. If you tell me everything, maybe I'll tell you why I'm so strong. Hee. Okay, if you want to know, then you have to find my body first. As he spoke, his head trembled, and he actually turned into a paper figure in front of Chen Zan. That's right, it's a paper figure made entirely of paper. Paper sticks people, it seems that you have a ghost who can stick paper. Chen Zan was not surprised by the doctor who had turned into a paper man. He had already experienced this kind of ability when he was in Xiadu before. Moreover, the specter ability that the opponent mobilized at that time was much more terrifying than it is now. Whether the ghost grave or the ghost tree can cause great trouble to Xiadu. In contrast, the current paper button people are not worth mentioning. But even so, Chen Zan did not take it lightly, because this specter's ability is too weird. Jizaran, he just guessed that the other party must not be close to him, so he let his own body hide in advance. But when the other party is really close, he has to use the help of ghost eyes to be able to distinguish whether the other party is the body or a paper figurine. I just don't know, is there any limit to his ability, is he copying his own body without limit? Impossible. If he hadn't suffered the destruction of the ghost tree and ghost grave before, he might still be able to do it. But there are definitely some limitations now. Quote. Chen Zan strolled through it, his eyes began to look around. And the armor of the two ancient soldiers who shot just now was also scattered on the ground at this time, and it seemed that there was no sign of the existence of the specter. Chen Zan speculated that this might be the control the other party generated through this special space. But don't worry, he only needs to find the other party's body now, and he can solve everything. Chen Zan's footsteps began to search continuously throughout the 7th floor, and found that there was silence in addition to silence. Sudden, a door opened in the darkness. Chen Zan subconsciously looked towards the position of the voice, only to see a door just opened in the corner. But at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded behind him. Big brother. This was Chen Ruoqing's voice, and it seemed to contain a kind of power that made him look back subconsciously uncontrollably. Click. Chen Zan instinctively turned his head, but saw a hideous grimace. And then, his head rolled down his neck uncontrollably. Jia, were you killed so easily? A grim smile appeared on the face of the ghost rider with the grimace of the ghost who turned back, as if he was proud of his masterpiece. However, before he could react, the death god's scythe already fell directly from midair, slicing his body in half. Click. The screams did not appear, but the split body turned into a brightly colored paper stick. Even on the paper-piercing face, the face of this hideous ghost was drawn. Chen Zan, who fell to the ground, did not die, but watched everything calmly. Is it another stunt double? And it can also have the ability to turn back ghosts. Chen Zan whispered to himself. The rest of his body suddenly squatted down, stretched out his hands and picked up his head that had fallen on the ground. And pressed it on his neck again. Ka. Chen Zan moved for a while, and there didn't seem to be anything unusual, as if it wasn't him who was killed just now. At the same time, in an unknown place, a doctor with glasses and a white coat was looking at the computer in front of him, which completely displayed the scene of Chen Zan just now. What a prudent guy. The doctor chuckled. Don't you give me a chance from beginning to end to find where your real body is hiding. If it weren't for me having no way to fully utilize the power of the Ghost Gate, I'm afraid I wouldn't have to be so troublesome. After saying a word, he suddenly laughed again. Only in this way can it be considered interesting. As soon as he finished speaking, among the densely packed paper figurines in the room in front of him, 3 paper figurines suddenly seemed to come to life. Just left here. The entire 7th floor. Chen Zan quickly left this exhibition hall-like place. But when he came to the corridor, he found that there seemed to be laboratories. Some laboratories seemed to have these kinds of instruments. In the long corridor, there are various rooms on the left and right sides, there are dozens of them. Is the doctor on this floor? As Chen Zan walked, he began to extend his ghost realm outwards. As in the previous situation in the ghost street, his ghost realm has been suppressed to a certain extent. But the difference is that Chen Dong had no way to resist this kind of suppression before. Now, if he uses the Blood River Ghost territory together, he can offset this suppression. This is his big hole card, but Chen Zan can't use it easily until he finds the position of the opponent's body. Would you like to check one room at a time? Chen Zan looked at these rooms, lost in thought. But at this moment, a sound suddenly came from a room, and the door creaked and was directly opened. Then I saw 3 figures in white coats walking out of the door. These 3 people look different, but their facial features give people a very strange feeling. As if this is not the facial features of a living person, as if it was painted with thick paint. When the 3 saw Chen Zan, they walked straight towards him. Backquote, or 3 paper figures again. Chen Zan looked at this scene lightly, and then raised his hand. The ghost puppet on the left is about to step forward with its long legs, while the scarecrow ghost on the right has the death scythe in his hand slightly raised. Seeing that the 2 thugs are about to shoot. But at this moment, 2 of the 3 figures on the opposite side disappeared. Swish it. A pair of hands stretched out abruptly from the surrounding darkness and covered the ghost doll's eyes. Ghosts cover their eyes. As soon as these hands covered the ghost doll's eyes, it completely suppressed the ghost doll's ability to be a ghost. This is simply incredible. You know, the ghost puppet doll's ability is to suppress the ghost, but now, before she can make a move, she came over and was suppressed by others. Is this ghost's ability to cover its eyes more terrifying than a ghost doll? Of course not. The reason why this can be done is that after analyzing the abilities of the ghost doll, the doctor made the restriction on the pertinence of the ghost doll for the first time. Only in this way can Chenzan be suppressed. Chenzan, who saw this scene, directly asked the scarecrow ghost man to solve the ghost doll's blindfold. But at this moment, he discovered that a specter had appeared on the back of Scarecrow Siren's hand without warning. He just hugged the other party directly, but the other party didn't respond to his command at all. What is this? Chenzan frowned slightly, and was about to make a move, but at this moment, in front of him, the only specter who didn't disappear, actually took out a rope and put it around his neck. Chenzan hanged himself. The pale face just threw up a thick hemp rope in his hand, and a ring appeared directly. And the rope above does not know where it is connected, so it hangs in the air so strangely. Hanging on the rope is but a momentary thing. Almost as soon as the two ghost riders beside him disappeared, he had already hung up the rope. Moreover, his body rose strangely, directly sticking his head into the rope. Next, it was as if some invisible stool had fallen. Actually let his body hang in the air directly. A ghost rider actually hanged himself in front of his face. Chenzan feels that this picture is indescribably weird. Isn't this suicide? But as soon as this thought came to his mind, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. An invisible rope seemed to be above his throat, pulling his body upward a little bit. So, is it the same ability as the target? Chenzan felt a sense of suffocation on his neck, and immediately understood the hangman's ability. Hang in front of the target, and the target will also hang himself. Caw caw caw. Chenzan felt that his head was being constantly strangled, and gradually began to suffocate. For ordinary people, this ability is simply incomprehensible. Because you can't see the rope on your body, and you end up hanging yourself. Unfortunately, on Chenzan's body, the feeling of hanging and suffocating did not last long. Suddenly in the darkness, a long black shadow stretched out against the wall. Finally, go straight to the ropes of the hanged man. Click. The invisible sound of breaking came, and the hanging rope that seemed to be shrouded in ghosts was broken by the invisible. The ghost rider fell directly to the ground from above. At the same time, the suffocation on Chenzan's neck also disappeared. He regained his control. Just at this moment, the scythe of the god of death, which appeared from nowhere, appeared, and actually directly split the hanged ghost in half. The other party quickly turned into a paper man. On the left and right sides, the ghost covering the eyes of the ghost doll and the scarecrow ghost man and the ghost holding the scarecrow man, who seemed to be still restricting the ghost doll and the scarecrow ghost, also turned into two paper figures at the same time. 3 paper figures again. Chenzan looked at this scene lightly, a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. If you only have this level of ability, then you can stop here. Chenzan said that with one step, his figure disappeared from the entire corridor. Afterwards, shadows like ink began to flow and extend towards the surroundings. He has now lost his patience after the initial temptation. Because he found the world inside, the place surrounded by darkness, although it can limit the civic. But for his own ghosting ability, he is unusually friendly. So, after several tests, the ghost doll completely exploded in front of Chenzan with the powerful ability that was generated after swallowing ghosts. Countless ink-like shadows continued to spread around. Like a wave, it quickly submerged all space. This speed is even more exaggerated than Song Lao's control of ghosts before. The reason why it can have such a terrifying effect is because the ghost doll itself is the incarnation of the ghost. There is no need to worry that the ghost will cause any backlash against you. The ghost image itself is suppressed by the ghost doll, and the ghost doll obeys Chenzan unconditionally. As a result, Chenzan can manipulate ghosts through ghost dolls at will, without worrying about overusing ghosting abilities to cause backlash against himself. Has his shadow started to change? The eyes under the glasses of the doctor who was watching the surveillance began to become puzzled. But before his voice fell, he saw that the screen on the monitor began to distort, and finally turned into a snowflake. Is even the surveillance broken? The doctor was not surprised by this, but thought about it. Even if I use a paper figure to control the ghost's ability, it's a bit difficult. Why is he so easy to control? After thinking for a moment, a flash of excitement suddenly appeared on his face. If I can get his AICD body and do research, can I get the same ability? In time, I will be, truly, God. Quote, that's right, the doctor could have left when he found out that Chen Zan appeared. But he did not leave, except for the confidence in his own abilities. Also wanted to get Chen Zan's abilities. He never thought that Chen Zan, who was designated as a failure by the company's archives, could have such a huge change. The more so, the more I want to study the mystery of Chen Zan. However, Jizaren's ability must be controlled by him in front of him. If it weren't for the ability to surround trees and ghost graves before, that would have hurt him too much. He can be controlled remotely. But it doesn't matter, as long as Chen Zan can be resolved, everything is worth it. It was even more worthwhile than getting Chen Ruoqing's innate ghost body. Mind this, he suddenly stood up from his seat, reached out and grabbed the stacks of yellow paper placed beside him. This kind of paper seems to be specially used for dead people who tie the paper. I saw the doctor's fingers dancing, dazzlingly moving back and forth on the paper, and soon a brand new paper figure emerged from his hand. Immediately, the doctor tapped with one hand, and a drop of blood fell on the paper figurine. The blood was quickly absorbed, and then I saw that the paper man came back to life all of a sudden. A weird smile appeared on his face. The doctor didn't even look at it, just put it aside, and started to make another paper figurine with his fingers waving. One after another paper figures kept appearing in his hands, and then they all pushed out the door on their own. They have only one target, and that is Chen Zan. On the other side, the turbulent ink has penetrated all the rooms in the corridor. Under Chen Zan's manipulation, wherever there are living people, he will kill them completely. Don't keep one. At the same time, the ghosts began to spread and move towards the surroundings. Even a terrifying force broke out, tearing down all the blocking gates. In this way, Chen Zan quickly swept the entire 7th floor with an extremely arrogant attitude. His eyes passed through the stairs, along the flow of shadows, to the 6th floor. The same one does not stay completely destroyed. Not even a doctor will confirm. Because Chen Zan knew that the body of the doctor would definitely be hidden in the most secret place. When Chen Zan appeared on the 8th floor, the door opened with a click. Immediately, one after another, figures identical to the doctor appeared one after another. They exuded a ghostly aura, and they walked towards Chen Zan. Haha, Chen Zan, I can make as many as you kill me, you have no chance. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.